Welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. We're live on YouTube, coming at you from the Antonio Cromartie studio in part with Huggies. All brought to you by Fanduel. Time, Sam, for our Week 10 NFL preview.
Coming at you, huh?
What?
How? It's an unusual phrase for you. Very down with the kids and hip.
Coming at you from?
Coming at you? That's not something
What do you mean?
would say. It's just a strange turn of phrase.
That's what an announcer might say. I saw the throwback, Texas Tech's hosting a huge game this weekend. Game day's coming to town or whatever. November 1st, 2008, I think it was. Texas came to town.
What town?
Texas Tech. Lubbock.
Okay.
The Texas game. Michael Crabtree game. Undefeated Texas Tech. And everybody was tweeting out the intro to that game, which was electric. It's Brent Musburger in his prime with the "You Are Looking Live." Just a great intro. You are looking live. Do you ever hear that? I mean, you ever watch college football?
No.
That was his intro catchphrase. You
Michael
are
Crabtree
looking live, and you'd get like the blimp view of the stadium and the fans coming in. It was a great, great intro. I'll send it to you.
Nice. Crabtree was fun because it was the first time Texas Tech got like a real wide receiver. They went through the run of the Wes Welkers, and they had a whole bunch of those guys, and then they suddenly found a Michael Crabtree, and they're like, wow, look what this offense does when you get one of those.
He was like a redshirt freshman, just absolutely dominant, and then he has a catch and run on the final play of the game to win it against Texas, who eventually went to the title game that year, or now the next year. Anyway, it was a great game. I might rewatch it later today to get ready. Anyway, you're looking live at Check the Mic, Week 10 NFL preview.
Yeah, at the studio. Update for the various leagues. Survivor, we got 54 people remaining in the Check the Mic Survivor pool, which you can find access to these things in the Discord. So only 54 people. We're whittling down that slowly but surely. The Pick'em League, much closer. We now have a two-way tie at the top with 82 wins. Somebody called Maxwell81798 and Beats32 are tied for first with 82 wins. I had a terrible week. I have slipped back to 73 wins. Harry at 63, 10 back from me. And then you at 62.
I had a good week just to get up to 62. And be 11 from you?
Yes.
All right. So Harry's got me by 1. I'm 11 behind you. We're halfway through the season.
Got some work to do.
It's doable.
Yeah.
It's doable. Let's make some good picks here this week.
Right.
All right. Anything else at the top? We had a fun show yesterday. If you haven't seen it yesterday, we recapped tons of stuff. Mostly the trade deadline, some Jets, and we're going to be talking so much Jets over the next 2 years. Lots of Jets talk from a team-building perspective. Talked about the Colts move to get Sauce Gardner as they head to Germany. I assume he's going to be on his way to Germany immediately.
They just packed him straight in the plane.
To join the squad. There was it was a good discussion yesterday. If you haven't checked it out yet, the Wednesday show.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. You ready to go?
Yep. Let's go.
Okay. I feel like we're missing something else at the top here.
Okay.
Well done. Las Vegas Raiders at the Denver Broncos. It's on Prime tonight. Denver Broncos. They're favored by 8.5. They're 7-2. Raiders 2-6. Over under is 42.5.
Yep. Jacoby Myers. Obviously, they traded him away. So Brock Bowers is going to get 8,000 targets.
Man, he's so good. And Geno Smith just threw 4 touchdowns. They had a great game against the Jags, despite you thinking it was boring. It was great in the second.
Most of it was boring.
In the second half of the game, it was excellent. And, Bowers makes it a big difference. My question for the Raiders coming off their bye last week was, first off, Bowers' health, and what does this offense look like? It's a 1-point loss to the Jags. Are you ready to reset maybe some early season expectations on the Raiders? Or are they back to like what we thought they would be, which is definitely a much more competitive team than they showed the first 8 weeks of the season?
I mean, I do think, last week wasn't a fluke, I think. I think Brock Bowers back in the lineup does transform the offense to a degree. Like, Geno has a greater degree of comfort and knows where he can go with the ball. He's got one guy that he absolutely has confidence in Bowers. So I think that part is legit. But now you're going up against Denver's defense with, the best pass rush in the NFL and everything they can bring to the table. So it might not be... I'm not sure that's enough for them to just be immediately, well, you can hang with Denver now.
I wonder if they're going to try to run the ball a little bit, keep the pass rush at bay. It doesn't matter a ton if you can't do it. I mean, if you can't run successfully. The Raiders' run game's a little bit better than it was earlier in the year. Ashton Genty, still good, still able to run hard. It's just really difficult when you don't have, the run blocking, the space. But when you give Genty space, he can make stuff happen. Raiders have been without Colton Miller for the last few weeks, as we know. The starting left tackle, Stone Forsythe, in there. I mean, if you look up and down the defensive line, we know Denver gets after it from a pass rush perspective, not just their front four, but the rotation in their front four, their ability to blitz and just create havoc. Always the key to the game when it comes to Denver. Can the Raiders pick any of that up or get the run game going enough just to, slow that down a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Raiders' offense will be able to actually move the ball a bit better, potentially do something in this game. The question, I think, then becomes, the Raiders' defense is not particularly good. It's very light on quality players. But Denver's offense has been, very inconsistent, very spotty. The talent is there. All the players, quarterback, we've seen Bo Nix play very well for stretches. The receiving talent, I think, is there for them to make an impact. The backfield has talent as well. They just don't seem to be able to put it all together consistently for any extended period of time. They just leave so much on the table. Will they be inconsistent enough to let the Raiders hang around close enough in the game?
I've said many times over the last few weeks, you're talking about Denver's offense. Golden age, Sam, my phrase for the year. Golden age of being able to pick any stat you want to tell any story you want. And there's a lot of hot button issues. Most of the online arguing these days, it's this guy's better than this guy's the best, this guy's the worst. I mean, there's no middle ground. And so Bo Nix continues to be he's a hot button issue. So I'll give you both sides of the Bo Nix discussion.
Okay,
we'll make everybody happy.
No, we won't.
On Bo Nix. The stat chart floating around there, I think it was from FTN. I like the way it's positioned. Yards left on the field, and it matches the eye test. Bo Nix, it's like percentage of your misses and then how many yards you missed. And Bo Nix is in its own, it's not even a quadrant because his miss percentage isn't that high. It's the yards that he's missed.
So they're all big plays.
The Bover throws, right? There's a lot of open throws down the field where, he's missing plays. And I think when you see that, you say credit to Troy Franklin, first of all, the Broncos receivers, and or Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton's doing a really good job there, creating explosive opportunities, and Bo has missed a bunch. And then the other, so that's a negative for Bo. And then I warn you, it's literally one stat. Mm-hmm. It's like one little stat. It's not like project it forward and say Bo Nix is the worst quarterback in the NFL. It's just, he's leaving something on the table. He's some missing yards, some missing value there. Now the hidden value in Bo Nix, Sam Schwartzstein.
Oh, what did he call that thing?
Amazon. Scrack.
Yeah, Scrack.
I like the Scrack metric. I really like it, Sam.
Scrack.
It's really good. So let me just finish.
Hang on, just before
Go ahead. You want to respond?
Not respond. I just want to clarify. I'm looking at the chart right now, and you said it's not the volume.
Is it a quadrant too?
Yeah. There are only two quarterbacks with a worse miss rate.
Oh, okay, my bad.
So
I thought he was more middle.
It is also it is also the volume, but it's definitely the yards.
I didn't have it in front of me.
All right,
I didn't want to misremember.
I didn't want to mislead people.
So I'm just trying to have Bo Nix fodder, right? Mm-hmm. If you're a hater, like, man, Denver's just dragging Bo Nix to all these wins with their great defense, you got some fodder. If you're a Bo-lever, I got something for you as well.
Okay.
Number 2 in Scrack. Number 2. And it's a fun metric, right? This is the
behind only the great Josh Allen, right?
Behind Josh Allen
is God when it comes to Scrack.
And so what is
Scrack, Steve?
It is it's interesting because we've talked a lot more about sacks and how that's on the quarterback in recent years, but it's combining sack EPA and scramble EPA, right? So I think it paints a really good picture of what are you losing when you get sacked, and then what are you gaining when you scramble, right? Because a lot of, say, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson's career, you'd say, hey, these guys have a really high sack rate. However, they make up for it more. It's in part because they're mobile and they create plays. And so you just combine the two. It becomes scrack. And Sam does a really good job with this. This is where Josh Allen, because it's combining sack EPA and scramble EPA, you're going to get sacked more than you're going to scramble. And your sacks, losing like 6 or 7 yards on a sack is, pretty detrimental to the offense. So everyone's going to be negative in this stat pretty much.
Right.
But you want to have, the lowest negative. Last year, there was a lot of normal metrics, your standard metrics that didn't love Josh Allen relative to, say, Lamar Jackson, but the hidden value was in scrack. He was the only guy that was positive, I believe, because he had such a low sack rate, and of course, Allen's a great scrambler. So Allen is number 1 as well this year. The highest EPA on scrambles, and it's actually like middle of the pack on losing EPA on sacks. Bo Nix, number 1 as far as EPA lost on sacks, very low sack rate. That has traveled with him from college to the NFL. He's been outstanding at that, and he's got a pretty good scramble EPA. So Bo Nix. Here's the top of the chart. So look, this is if you want to be irresponsible with numbers.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be irresponsible with numbers,
boy, do I.
You could look at the scrack chart here, and if you are a Bo Nix or a Jackson Dart fan, and I know they're out there. I know there's some numbers people out there.
This is for you.
This is for you. There's some Jackson Dart numbers nerds out there who are like, this is the next Mahomes. I got something for you, all of you guys. Scrack, number 1, Josh Allen. He's the best. Number 2, Bo Nix. Number 3, Patrick Mahomes. Number 4, Jackson Dart. And then it's Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love. So if you're Bo Nix and Jackson Dart fans, the top 4, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix, and Jackson Dart, clearly that's who they are. So there you go. That's our game preview for Raiders-Broncos. Something to keep an eye on. Bo Nix missing deep throws, but also picking up positive yards on scrambles and not losing value on sack rate.
What's funny about that is that both of those things completely match the eye test. Like just eyeballing Bo Nix playing football, you're like, that dude leaves so many big passing plays on the table and also saves the game by what he does, avoiding sacks and turning stuff into scrambles. Like, that's Bo Nix's game in a nutshell, summed up in 2 statistics. The other thing that jumped out with that, the scrack, when you sent it to me.
I'm going to bring it back. It's going to be a big part of the show here today.
Was that Cam Ward is like almost more than twice as bad as any other quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
That's horrendous. Like, mind-blowingly terrible.
Yeah, it's not great. They're on bye, so we don't get to,
That's why you got to bring it up now.
You got to bring it up now. We'll bring it back next week.
You've got Jared Goff, like the bottom quarterbacks, right? Jared Goff and Joe Flacco, 2 guys that are like notoriously immobile and kind of oblivious in the pocket at times throughout their career. Makes sense. And Cam Ward is more than twice as bad as those 2 guys at the combination of sacks and scrambles. That's not good for a mobile quarterback.
EPA, expected points added.
Yes.
Right? Cam Ward's losing about 89 points on this.
Yeah.
But gaining almost nothing back from scrambles. So you're not getting the mobility. You're not getting the benefit of the mobility. And you're just, taking way too many negative plays. It's an interesting data point. The other guy that's really low on this is Drake May. And we'll talk about that, I think, when we get to the New England game. It's the one criticism of May's game so far.
Am I misremembering? Wasn't Josh Allen early in his career pretty bad at taking sacks, and then he became like a savant at never taking them?
I don't remember. I think he was more the turnover-worthy plays for him, but I think the sack rate's always been pretty good for Allen. I could be wrong, though.
Yeah.
I remember sack rate. That doesn't mean like you're just breaking free from sacks. It's just getting rid of the ball.
Right.
Quicker.
Peyton Manning was at a really good
And
sack
by
rate.
the way, I think
Marino.
Marino was unbelievable at it. Allen and Nix both have really good pass blocking offensive lines. And Mahomes actually, it does coincide a lot of times with the offensive line as well. It's just not always there. Anyway, in this matchup, Broncos-Raiders, the Bo Nix discourse, let it continue. Bottom line there, though, is they've had a lot of games where they've kind of been sleepwalking through 3 quarters, and then Bo Nix has been outstanding in the 4th and gets the key scramble. Max Crosby probably has to be incredible in this game for the Raiders to have a chance. And I also think the Raiders' offense can be a lot feistier than they were the first half of the season with Bowers back, finding ways to get Genty the ball. So I'm hoping for a competitive game. It's 8.5 though here for Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, I'm going to buy in. I'm going to be a prisoner of the moment and buy in to the last thing we saw from the Raiders, which is the offense looking better and being able to at least keep that close.
Yeah,
as in within 8.5.
I want to do that, but I'm not gonna.
I'm not confident.
I've been burnt so many times just picking the favorite on Thursday Night Football, and then you got some weird stuff happens. You got a division game.
Did I make the rather foolish error of putting, is this my lock of the week, quote unquote?
For Vegas?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
I did, yeah.
Man, I mean, my lock of the week doesn't really matter.
To be fair, it was 9.5 when I did it.
So. Oh, now it's 8.5 now.
Yeah.
I'll take Denver to cover the 8.5, as will 10-year-old Harry. All right, let's get to some of the Sunday action. Los Angeles Rams at the San Francisco 49ers. The NFC West is about to get pretty intense in the coming weeks here. 6-2 Rams against the 6-3 49ers. Rematch from their Thursday night football game just a few weeks back. Remember, the 49ers pulled that off in overtime with a couple big plays in there. Rams are favored by 3.5. Over-under is 50.5 from our friends over at Fanduel.
And, of course, as we know, the only analysis that matters for these games in this division is rock, paper, scissors. Shanahan always beats McVay. End of story. Next.
All right, let's get to the next game. Let's get to the next game here. Ironically, I can't remember the exact parts of the series in the last couple of years, but once they got to the NFC Championship in 2021, McVay got the win. McVay got the win.
It is interesting, I think, now because the Rams are suddenly leaning so much on these tight ends, and the 49ers have no linebackers remaining, So they're this no-name defense that's being patched together with guys that, were on practice squads or special teamers. They now have to cover a bunch of tight ends, not just the Rams wide receivers and 11 personnel.
In addition, my secret Palazzolo value metric, we've got Matthew Stafford. He would be leading my MVP race if I had one. He's the most valuable player.
If you viewed such things as a race.
Palazzolo value metric has Matthew Stafford as the most valuable player in the NFL so far.
Wow.
And look, you could lay an egg this weekend, but I'm going to take halfway through the season to apologize for talking so much about Matthew Stafford's back.
Yeah.
Early in the season. I know it seems perfectly fine. We were a little worried. He's getting an epidural. He's in a van.
To be fair, those were all fairly significant, concerns. I will say my analysis, at least now, this is wrong as well because I literally haven't heard a peep about his back since the season started.
Nothing.
I don't think. My theory was that we would hear about it every week, but it wouldn't actually affect anything. It was just going to be like Stafford, he's on the injury report, he's not practice, and then he goes out there and he's like no looking left, right, and center, and still looks like Matthew Stafford, and we would just go through the whole season like that. But actually, the second the season started, it's just like we forgot he ever was dealing with a back injury, and he's just healthy.
The back injury may have distracted me a little bit. It's just a fascinating last couple of years from Stafford. Remember, let's turn back the clock. It's almost like a Mayfield in Cleveland type of run, where you have 2021 MVP type of candidate. They go on that Super Bowl run. He was outstanding that year as they traded for him. 2022, team gets falls apart. They get hurt. He doesn't play well. It was just a mess. And then it was like, all right, coming off this Super Bowl win, will the Rams even be able to build this thing back? And they bring in all the rookies and Puka Nacua, and Stafford's awesome again. I thought he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league in 2023. With just a lesser team, and he's dragging them did they go to the playoffs that year or on the cusp? They went to the playoffs that year. And then last year, it was like this time of the year, last year, maybe a little bit later, all of a sudden Stafford stops playing well, and the defense is unbelievable. And the defense starts giving up 10 per game, 12 per game, and the defense is dragging the Rams to the playoffs last year. And so you've had this up and down last couple of years for Matthew Stafford, but I think he's back to the 21 level, the 23 level, making when Stafford's on, you get some of the feel stuff. You get some of the no looks, and you just you can tell that he's feeling it, he's confident, and he used to only do that a couple times a year. Now it's like, man, he is bringing that every single week. Stafford's playing well, and I think it coincides with the confidence he has with Puka Nacua when he's out there. and then having Devontae Adams. And I think you're seeing just a much more consistent week in, week out Matthew Stafford combined with mixing it up in the running game and having different ways to win, and the defense still being pretty good. It's a very good Rams team right now.
Yeah, it is. They look very impressive. I mean, this is this is the part of the analysis that I think we did have right heading into the season. Was this is a team that they gave the Eagles the best game of anybody late in the year, down through the playoffs. They were close-ish to being able to beat the Eagles. Nobody else even got, within an arse's roar, as they say, of the Eagles during the playoffs. The Rams did. Like, they actually had a shot at that. And if they had beaten the Eagles in that game, they would have been against Washington in the NFC Championship game. They would have been favorites in that game. And then who knows how things would have gone against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Like, it wasn't very far, even though, like, there were a couple of games away. Like, you don't have to change that much before you're like, this team could have won a Super Bowl last year, and they added Devontae Adams to that team. They added, other bits and pieces to this team. They should be a Super Bowl contender, with that young defense getting a year older and stuff. And I think you're seeing that now. I mean, the whole NFC West, other than Arizona, looks like they're in that bucket. But, like, they could and should be a legitimate Super Bowl contender this year.
Other side of it, remember the last time they played, the Niners were just unstoppable in those first couple drives against the Rams. And so that's the dynamic. I think on paper, you look at a depleted Niners team. You look at a team that has no pass rushers that are either good or healthy at this point. They've had to blitz much more in recent weeks. And then a Rams team, again, good on both sides of the ball. A pass rush from the Rams that should be able to create havoc against the Niners. On paper, it should be an advantage for the Rams. They are favored by 3.5, but you have this whole McVay-Shanahan factor, and Shanahan's always seemed to have it's not even that they're necessarily wrinkles, but just a feel for how to attack McVay's teams.
And the last time they played is a perfect example of that. It's like, it's why we're joking that the only thing that matters is it's the rock, paper, scissors stuff that happens in this division, because I mean, the last time they played, I'm trying to find the line right now, but the Rams were heavily favored. They were expected to win that game. 7.5-point favorites they were in that game. And then the first drive, because the 49ers were so badly banged up and depleted and everybody was injured. So 7.5-point favorites. We all picked the Rams to cover that line. And then drive number one, San Francisco goes out there and just looks like exceptionally good. And hung in the whole game, won the game, because there's some weird devil magic that happens in this division.
Well, it should be a fun one. I'm looking forward to it. It's Sunday at 4:25 this week. I think it's just four games in the 4 o'clock window. This will be the biggest one because it's Detroit, Washington. Washington's beat up. Arizona, Seattle should be good, but just 3 games in the 4 o'clock window. It's the Rams by 3.5. Where are you going to go with this one?
I am going to go with the 49ers. I've learned my lesson.
By the way, I think so Purdy's still questionable. I don't think there's any word on him as of Thursday right now.
Right.
So whether it's Mac Jones, look, Mac played really well other than that one throw the other last time around. Just wanted to make sure we touched on that quickly. Mm-hmm. I will take the Rams.
Because you haven't learned your lesson.
I haven't learned my lesson. I'll take the Rams. On the road as 3.5-point favorites. What the heck? What am I doing? They're going to get the better of the Niners this time. Harry's going to take the Niners. He understands.
Yeah.
Let's go Sunday Night Football. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Los Angeles Chargers. It's Sunday night, 8:20 Eastern. Waiting all day for this one. Chargers by 3, and the over-under is 45.5. Should be a terrible towel, big-time Steelers crowd out there in L.A.
They travel.
What are we looking for in this one? The Steelers, by the way, 5-3. Chargers 6-3. They haven't had a bye yet, and so it's a battle for Pittsburgh's in front, obviously in the AFC North right now. But if, as Vegas expects, the Ravens are going to start making a run here, if Pittsburgh does not win the division, this game has massive playoff implications.
Huge wild card implications. It's we were trying to kind of game out what this would look like before the show. Obviously, Pittsburgh last week was the classic Mike Tomlin game. They had disappointed the last couple of times, and then they go out against the Colts team that looked like an absolute juggernaut and dominated. At least, 6 turnovers, etc. Like, they get the win. Now you're like, well, what does that do against the Chargers, who are, they're a good team in terms of record, but they're so banged up on this offensive line. They're trading for Trevor Penning, Joe Alt out again. The offensive line's already deep into the bench, and every time they go really deep into the bench, it does cause major problems for Justin Herbert and that offense. And for the first time, really, this season, Pittsburgh's defensive line looked like the team we thought they would coming into this year, with that trio of edge rushers that they can deploy, as well as interior pressure and all those kinds of things. I mean, logically, this should be an absolute beatdown for Pittsburgh's defensive line, just ripping apart that Chargers offensive line. Will it be?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, it goes back to the Tomlin question, like how the ebbs and flows of the season, right? You pull the upset against the Colts after a couple disappointing games, particularly the Bengals game a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
What do you do in this type of game against? Did he have any tells at his press conference? I need Tomlin tells, like the presser that he does on a Monday or Tuesday, whenever that is, early in the week.
Like when he was mad about having to face Joe Flacco.
Right. You're either afraid of Joe Flacco or you give like a little wink in the gun about the the Colts offense. Like, I got him. It's like he just knows. I wonder what he knows about the Chargers. The Titans last week caused all sorts of issues up front for the Chargers. Herbert still had to make some big throws down the field, and he did. But they caused all sorts of problems up front. And the Titans don't have a great pass rush. They'll use some sim pressures and everything, but sacked Herbert, 5 times last week, and just had some O-line collapsing type of rushes. That would be the concern, even if Herbert does create some big plays. And look, Pittsburgh secondary has given them up. Their back seven has had some issues. Aronde Gadsden, if he's working the middle of the field with the miscommunications that the Steelers linebackers have had, could be a thing. The other thing to keep an eye on, though, was it Jalen Ramsey playing free safety? Was that the trigger? Was that the thing that has turned the Steelers around? The same way, Kyle Hamilton, you just switch his position and it changes everything. We're only 1 week into this thing, but Jalen Ramsey playing free safety last week did coincide with the Steelers having their best game, I'd say, relative to their competition. Defensively, is that the big difference for Pittsburgh?
I mean, they had 2 new safeties, right? They put Jalen Ramsey back at safety, and then Kyle Duggar, who they just brought in, played basically the entire game. I think he missed 1 snap in the entire thing. So they completely shifted their safety duo for that game. I think that obviously made an impact, but I think the big difference was that defensive line showed up for the first time really in anger and absolutely wrecked shop the way we were expecting them to all season long. This is it's the type of game where they should eat. I mean, there's no reason that defensive line wouldn't beat the living crap out of what the Chargers are able to deploy right now. And if they do that, like Justin Herbert has to basically be superhuman to keep them level in this game. And he has done that for various parts of the season. I mean, you said you're going to make the show all about the scrack this week.
Bring it.
Herbert is that's what his breakdown looks like. He's losing an absolute boatload in terms of sack EPA, only 2 quarterbacks worse. But is he first? No, second, behind only Josh Allen in terms of scramble EPA. So, think of all those plays. Like, think about what he was doing against Flores' defense and the Vikings. Like, every time they thought they had him shut down, he would just take off and make a play scrambling. Herbert scrambling has been absolutely huge so far this season. And the only concern is, what if he gets hurt? Not hurt to the point where he's out of the game, but what if he just gets banged up? He's been banged up a lot in his career. He's been, very injured for a lot of it, and he's played through a lot of that, but it obviously diminishes him. And you only worry about that because he's dealing with such a crappy offensive line. You're like, that he's going to take hits, and eventually, does one of those hits break something.
Then Pittsburgh's offense on the other side of the ball, they're averaging 25 points a game, which is, I think that's usually top 7 or 8 in the NFL. That's 12th right now, tied with Baltimore, because if you're not following the NFL trends, plays are way down. I heard our friend Dean Blandino talking about this on a secret call yesterday. Plays are down about 5 plays per game, I think, total, but a lot of that's coming from scrimmage plays. But points are up, right? It's the field position stuff. It's the kickoff. It's more illegal contact penalties. It's the kicking game, right? There's points are way up. So Pittsburgh's averaging 25 points per game. Here's a stat, though. The lowest points yards per point. So they're picking up fewer yards for the points that they're scoring. Why is that happening? Because Pittsburgh field position, right? Because Pittsburgh last week they're setting up at their own 11, at their own 7 after turnovers. New England game turnovers.
The opposing 11 and 7.
Yeah,
not their own.
They're the Indy 10, 11, whatever it was. They had was it the Seattle game? They had a couple turnovers in their own where they got the ball in Seattle territory. So Pittsburgh's offense has been interesting because I think they do a great job in the red zone, throwing to the big dudes, throwing to DK, throwing to Darnell Washington. But when they have to sustain drives, it's been very inconsistent for Pittsburgh, going up against a Chargers team that usually makes you sustain drives, right? Hit the underneath stuff, make good decisions, try not to give up too much over the top. So interesting matchup on that side as well. If the Chargers are unable if the Chargers can at least take care of the ball, even if there's some negative plays for Herbert, take some sacks or whatever it might be. If the Chargers just don't turn it over, we might be looking at like a 19-17 fist fight that, Pittsburgh generally likes to play in.
Yeah. I think the Chargers offense is also capable of being pretty explosive as well. And that would be a thing that could keep them alive in the game as well. Like, Herbert with his scrambling buys them a lot of extended drives, and then you need to hit the big shots every now and again. They're capable of doing that as well. Yeah, the Steelers offense, it's a weird offense because I don't think it's terrifying anybody, but they have been pretty efficient with the opportunities that they've been given. Rodgers, I don't think you would say he's playing well, but it's kind of like Rodgers and the Steelers this year are actually sort of like they're sort of justifying what everyone said about the Jets last year. It's like Rodgers actually isn't playing terribly. It's just that everything around him isn't working. Now the stuff around him is working better, and I don't know that he's playing any better than he was a year ago, but the results are far better because it's Pittsburgh, not the Jets.
Yes. And, they're opportunistic, and the defense steps up when they need to. It's an interesting season so far for the Steelers right now. Huge game, 5-3 against 6-3. Sunday Night Football. Where are you leaning on this one?
I'm trying to. This is one of those ones where I'm trying to be too clever for myself. I'm trying to second guess what the Mike Tomlin magic is going to be, and I assume after a phenomenal performance against a team they weren't supposed to beat, they're going to lay an egg against a team they should destroy up front. Therefore, the Chargers will win and cover at home.
Jim Harbaugh factor here.
Right, at home, by the way, which will be like a Pittsburgh home game because Steelers travel, Chargers don't have fans. Like it's all set up for a ridiculous Chargers win.
I'm going to go Pittsburgh now. I just switched it. Harry's taking the Chargers. I'm going to paint this picture of with Sunday Night Football. Chris is raving about how good the Steelers travel. He's going to mention the cab driver in Pittsburgh that he's got to know the backup tight end so that the cab driver's happy in Pittsburgh, and the terrible towels are coming out, and it's like an electric Pittsburgh atmosphere as they pull the upset against the Chargers, like 20-17 or something. So I'll take the Steelers, and Harry's taking the Chargers. See if I'm right on this one. The Pittsburgh prediction this week. Let's go Monday Night Football. God willing. Figure out the carriage dispute, people. Philadelphia Eagles at the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
Packers favored by 2.5 here. I would say a couple 6-2 teams, but no. 5-2-1 Packers hosting the 6-2 Eagles. Number 1 seed implications in the NFC. Big one here.
Big one. Yeah, a lot of intriguing elements to this game. I mean, it's tight in the NFC. You've got. Do you see Howie apparently was they were in on every big name player that was going to get traded, and Howie was like, yeah, we were shooting our shot, and we didn't didn't get any of them, but like they were interested in Micah Parsons. Can you imagine? Like, number one, Jerry trading Micah Parsons to the Eagles. Like
before the season they were calling
Cowboys
about him.
Fans would have like just exploded.
Would have been crazy.
Number two, imagine Micah Parsons actually landing on this Eagles team and what he could do there. Like just craziness. But I mean, the big thing I think starts with, can Jordan Love have a bounce back game and not, do the crazy, horrible throws that he had last week?
My question here is, last season, Green Bay was a clear good team, but second tier team, especially in the NFC, behind the Lions.
Now it's just unclear.
Now it's I think
they might still be that, but it's just unclear.
Well, last year they won all the games they were supposed to, and then lost all the games they were supposed to, which included against Philadelphia twice, week 1 and in the playoffs, which included going up against Minnesota, who was just better last year, and against Detroit, who was just better last year. Now Green Bay looks like a high-end, a team that could put together a high-end game and beat any of those teams. But they also lost to the Browns, blowing a 10-point lead in the third quarter, and they just lost to the Panthers at home in just like a windy street fight type of game where the Panthers won it ugly or made it an ugly game and then won it ugly. And so the Packers.
Are you saying they don't have that dog in them?
I'm not saying. You were saying that about what's his face's son.
Who?
New Orleans guy.
Well, yeah, because the X-ray showed that.
The X-ray showed that.
But that's
like your best tweet of all time. When it was underrated.
This is the game. These are the games that they're not winning. Like when they get pulled into an ugly street fight, that's when they wilt.
And on top of that, speaking of street fights, we have the tush push drama. The Packers were the team that said we don't want this.
That's right.
Let's vote on this.
They're the whiners. This is all coming together. Like who lacks dog more than anybody else? The whiny kid. The Packers are the whiny kid that doesn't have the dog in them, and they want the tush push banned because it's unfair and stuff.
Wow.
That's why they can't win the big one. They're just whiny.
And so
it's all coming together.
I'm curious in this one. Are we going to get, which week was it? The Eagles ran 4 in a row. Oh, it was against the Giants on Thursday Night Football. They ran 4 tush pushes in a row.
Yeah.
All the way into the end zone. And everybody's like, oh, it's a primetime game.
If they hadn't lost that game, that would have been the game that people were like, this is getting banned.
The offense, that got me thinking, like, is this, when you get into rugby mode, does it take you out of, running good football play mode? Does it change the mentality a little bit too much? The Eagles ran 4 in a row against the Giants, and then they collapsed, right? The story of the Eagles season so far has been, their offense disappearing for halves at a time and not necessarily knowing when it's going to happen. But I'm curious if they do a little troll job if it comes up.
Just every play.
Like their first 2nd and 1. Any point on the field for the Eagles. And they just go push, right? Would you do it on – I still think you just do it on 1st and 10.
That's what I was going to say. Forget the first, 2nd, and 1. They should just start a drive and go, we're going to do 4 times and convert from 1st and 10.
Yeah.
Just because it's the Packers. That would be hilarious.
I'm making a push for I'm telling you, the empty under center quick sneak. Brady used to do this all the time. When teams would go under center empty, which is as uncommon as a split back under center backfield in the NFL right now. But you go under center, empty, the defense is going to have a 4-man line. There's going to be a bubble there.
Right.
And you just run forward. And it's like a free 5 yards. You should run that once a game, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, storylines with the tush push.
Yeah. It is a storyline in this game. Number one, because obviously the Eagles do it so much. Everyone is focused on. It's kind of annoying now because every single tush push is replayed in super slow-mo. And it's like, look, that right guard jumped early. How are they missing this? It's like, okay, yes. How are they missing this on super slow-mo? But what does that look like live? And live, it looks perfectly normal. like live, yeah, did the right guard move a fraction of a second earlier than the center snapped the ball? Sure. Is that something you could actually pick up during, the full speed run of the play? No, not really. Like, there are definitely ways that they're not officiating this correctly. I don't think the way of proving that is to super slow-mo everything and say, well, look, they missed another one.
Man, we got to respond to the news that's just come out. Cowboys defensive end Marshawn Kneeland has passed away, tragically, at 24 years old. Could have waited, I guess, but I don't know. That's just coming through everywhere on social. Don't have any reports on what happened, but Cowboys have made a statement. Defensive end for the Cowboys, Marshawn Kneeland, tragically passed away this morning, 24 years old. Cowboys say, beloved teammate, member of our organization, thoughts and prayers regarding Marshawn are with his girlfriend, Catalina, and his family. Sorry to bring that up in the beginning there, but it came up. I figured we'd touch on it at least quickly. So Cowboys are on their bye, and I don't know, more information to come, I believe.
Yeah, obviously horrible news.
I'm not a professional when it comes to the on-air stuff and how you're supposed to handle that, but that's how we did it.
I mean, I don't know that there is a correct way of handling something like that. Obviously, horrible news for Cowboys and Marshawn and his family.
And then we got to say, now back to the game. Eagles-Packers, we're in the middle of discussing that breakdown. Packers missing Tucker Kraft now too.
Yeah,
out for the season. Probably see more Luke Musgrave.
Yeah, and
how they're gonna work this.
That I think will be interesting. I've seen a couple of Packers kind of beat reporters, bloggers, whatever category you want to throw them into, sort of reminding themselves this week of what it looked like. Because remember, Musgrave was the higher drafted tight end. Like, he was expected to be the guy, and then Tucker Kraft kind of emerged when Luke Musgrave got hurt. It wasn't even like immediately, sometimes you get these guys where you draft two of them in the same draft and the lower drafted guy is just better, like obviously to begin with, and they kind of flip in terms of deployment and all those kinds of things. Kraft kind of needed the injury to Musgrave, like he needed the opportunity to show that he was what looks like the better player right now. But all of a sudden you've got these guys going, well, okay, there's an opportunity obviously for Musgrave, and they're sort of reminding themselves that first initial look, the Packers were designing all these things for Musgrave. Like, he was the guy where gadget plays are being drawn up, where they were putting him in motion a ton. Like, they were moving him around and using him in the formation. So they might still have like a ton of faith in what he can do. Like, we might actually see a real breakout from Luke Musgrave with this greater opportunity.
Yeah, it's a fun matchup in this one generally. Like I said, at the very top of this breakdown, the Packers just felt like a tick below the Eagles last year. I don't think the best the Packers bring to the table, the way their defense is playing, I think they're a lot closer this year. For Green Bay, like, if you're a Packers fan, you're just wondering, how do you lay an egg basically 3 times this year, I would say, where the Packers underachieved. And it's the 2 losses and the tie. Right, you blew a game against the Browns. You gave up 40 against the Cowboys when the defense was really good, and that included just bad turnovers at the wrong time. Just letting the Cowboys score 40, and then last week against Carolina, right, when these games that you should take care of. But I have a lot more faith in Green Bay in bigger games against some of the best teams in the league. And then for Philly, you have that 2-week stretch, that 4-day stretch where they lost 2 games. But other than that, they've been very good. But as we said too, inconsistent with the offense, and had these halves of play where they just couldn't score, show up. So it should be a fascinating game here. I'm curious to see how Jordan Love does bounce back and play with their playmakers. I think overall he's played really well. I think Matt LaFleur is doing a really good job. There's some Packers fans saying, "When do you?" I don't know, just too much internet in my life right now. Like, when do you move on from Matt LaFleur? Like, I don't know, never. The dude's doing a great job in Green Bay. What are you talking about?
It is weird. I don't know if that's just the small subset of fans that think that about every coach, right? Like,
I
I'm
think
sure
every fan base is upset.
Yeah, like I'm sure there is a subset of coach or of fans that are like, I mean, is Kevin O'Connell really all that? Or, I mean, certainly Mike Tomlin's been dealing with that for a while, and a growing percentage of those in Pittsburgh. Yeah, Matt LaFleur's had that for a while. And it's like that guy could have won Coach of the Year, like maybe multiple times already. And like, why? How could you possibly be thinking about? Is it time? Is it time to move on from LaFleur? I mean, the answer to that is quite clearly no. But there are people that ask the question relatively consistently, which doesn't make too much sense to me. The matchup of Micah Parsons against this Philadelphia offensive line will be pretty fascinating. The Eagles have the best tackle tandem in the NFL. They're not just the best generally, but they also get left to it themselves more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Like the Eagles just leave those two guys on an island, say, you guys are good enough to handle your business, go out and do it. And generally they do. Micah Parsons against Lane Johnson will be, blockbuster television. Micah Parsons against Jordan Mailata, you would say Parsons has an advantage there. I think you would get him a couple of times. But then you also have the X factor of Micah Parsons then moves around a lot more.
He's all over the place, yeah.
And you're going to see him against those interior guys. And in particular, if they can get him matched up on the right guard, that you would say is an area that Green Bay can exploit.
Fun matchup. I think it's going to be a good one. Monday Night Football. Packers are favored by 2.5 here. Over under 44.5 from Fanduel. Where are you going to go with this one?
I mean, that's just straight disrespect to the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to go with the Eagles to win, cover, and hopefully troll Green Bay with the push play.
I'm rooting for definitely a 1st and 10 push play.
I want to see a full conversion from 1st and 10, just push it.
You got to disguise it a little bit though. You got to come out in like a normal.
I don't think you do. I think you just say, look, Jerry told us Micah Parsons is a liability in the run game. We're going to roll up with the push play, and we're just going to pick up 2.5, 4 straight times, and crush you. Stop it.
Oh, man, this feels like I don't know, this line. I'll take Philly. Harry's going to take Philly as well. Are we getting fooled here?
Probably.
Getting fooled too much by Green Bay losing that game the way they did last week?
Yeah, look,
we could see another really quick 7-8 possession game the way Philly does play that slower style. And that was what did Green Bay in last week against Carolina.
Yeah, I do think Green Bay's ceiling, I think they can hang with the best teams this year, which I don't know that they could a year ago. So that part, I think, I don't know that them struggling in these low-scoring street fight games means they're incapable of doing the same thing against a team like Philadelphia. I think they can go toe-to-toe with them. I just don't know that they will.
The last thing I wanted to say about this game, I like some of the charts that Ben Baldwin puts out. And him and maybe Kev Cole both have a similar version of the same thing, or maybe it's pretty much the same thing, like the PFF grade versus EPA charts.
Right.
And I believe Love is lower on PFF grade. I got the QB stats here. Lower on PFF grade, but higher in EPA. And that's like in the LaFleur discussion, that's where the difference is usually the coach. Like we usually attribute that to the coach, the scheme, or the playmaker. So Love right now is 2nd in EPA, 9th in PFF grade, right? Mm-hmm. When I read that, that tells me the passing offense is efficient, more efficient than say the quarterback is playing. There's also probably some hidden EPA and SCRAC for Love, where I believe he's top 6.
Yep.
But in the LaFleur discussion, if you have a very efficient passing offense and the quarterback has a lower PFF grade, that's either some level of coaching scheme, yak-centric plays, which are often coaching anyway, or you just have incredible playmakers. So that would be my argument for LaFleur. I believe the same thing was the case for the 2 Aaron Rodgers MVP seasons. I don't think Rodgers, in one of the seasons, at least in 21, didn't play nearly as well as his stats, and that's a LaFleur type of deal there. So I think they're doing a good job offensively, but there's definitely some inconsistency last week in the red zone in certain games where they're just not putting it all together.
The last thing to throw in for this game is since Christian Watson's come back, he's been making the explosive plays that he's always been pretty inconsistent at throughout his career. Like that's what he's there for. But I don't know that his ball skills are necessarily amazing for that type of player, but I think he's made basically every one of those plays that they've thrown in his direction so far since his return. Those are explosive plays. Those are big plays. Those are field-flipping plays. If he can keep that run going, that's a really kind of important thing for Green Bay.
All right, let's go to Germany.
What?
Atlanta Falcons at the Indianapolis Colts. Colts are favored by 6.5 here. It's Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern here. Over-under is 48.5 from Fanduel. 7-2 Colts coming off there. Lost last week against the Steelers. And Falcons, man, they got to save their season at this point. They're getting into trouble territory as they're now 3-5.
Desperation mode, yeah. I mean, this becomes one of the most confusing games to try and predict. You've got the Colts coming off their first real, complete letdown game where the offense turned the ball over 6 times, where they just got straight up beaten in a game they were supposed to win, going up against Atlanta, who I think is the most confusing team in the NFL, where they've put Josh Allen in hell, but they've had games where they got carved up. Like, I don't know what to make about from either of these teams, and it's in Germany to make it even more confusing.
It's outdoors in Germany for a couple dome teams.
In the morning.
It's
just chaos.
So much chaos here. A couple things to keep an eye on. We talked a lot yesterday about, obviously, the Colts trading for Sauce Gardner. Again, I'm assuming he's just going to go to Germany and play football this weekend. They're playing a decent amount of man coverage. They're not, you wouldn't say they're definitely a man team or a zone team. That's Lou Anarumo. He mixes it up. He's game plan oriented. When you see, so what I think is going to be really big for Indy's defense here, when you see quarterbacks who have high pressure rates after a game and everything, I always say it's not just the pass rush, that's the coverage, right? That's, if you take away read 1, read 2, pressure rate goes way up. And that is what I think Sauce Gardner brings to the table for Indy. I think if he forces a quarterback to hold the ball just an extra beat because he's long and, just doesn't give up a ton of separation in the pass game, if that's an extra beat for Laiatu Latu, for DeForest Buckner, for Kwity Paye, and that pass rush, which I think is fine. It's a good pass rush from Indy. They're not necessarily dominant, but man, I think Sauce Gardner has a chance to really elevate that defense because they've got good players at every level. And so I don't know if it's going to hit this week, but it is a huge factor, I think, for Indy going forward. And then you look at Michael Penix when he's pressured, 5.1 yards per play from our friends over at 33rd Team, our crack research team here. 25th in yards per play, 8th in ADOT, so he's still throwing the ball down the field a lot, trying to make big plays, but only 20th in success rate. He's much better from a clean pocket relative to the rest of the league. So it's a huge factor, I think, in this game. If Sauce just creates a couple more, just a little bit more indecision, and then would they use him against Drake London, who's also just high volume? That's when this offense is moving the ball and cooking. It's when they're feeding Drake London and Bijan's, getting his. But Drake London obviously coming off his huge game against the Patriots. We've seen Sauce Gardner do a little bit of tracking. That could be an awesome matchup in this one.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. We've made this point in reverse with Patrick Surtain in Denver when he got injured. How much does that affect the pass rush? It's an interconnected relationship there. Sauce Gardner won't just help the Indy secondary, but he'll probably help the pass rush as well. Judah Fortang at PFF had an interesting chart that's got PFF separation and targets per coverage snap, essentially. And Sauce Gardner is not quite in the Aaron Donald world of his own weird, anomalous data point relative to everybody else, but he is by far the best corner in the NFL this year in terms of average separation allowed, which is what we've been saying, right? This guy is usually in your hip pocket. And he's relatively not targeted. Like, he allows a lower, he's targeted less often, than your regular corner. So, these are examples of what you're talking about. He's tight coverage, and teams generally don't go after him because of that. That is forcing hesitation in the quarterback. It's forcing you to go to a different read. It's forcing all these things which help pass rush.
Yeah, I think he's been really good, Sauce, in a lot of those, like year after year in those metrics for PFF. So again, it doesn't show up in interception totals. He's definitely given up a few more explosive plays this year, the last couple of years versus early in his career. But overall, for Lou Anarumo, who, again, will mix it up, doesn't have a certain style, right? Certain coaches, you're like, oh, Fangio, quarters, too high shell guy, or Pete Carroll, Seattle 3. Like, there's not a style to Lou. Right. It could be week to week, game to game, half to half. I can't wait to see how they put that all together. So I think that's a huge addition for the Colts. Creates new challenges for the Falcons. Falcons at their best, like I said, they're feeding Drake London. They're getting the run game going with Bijan Robinson. They have not had that these last few weeks. Teams have done a much better job stopping the run in Atlanta. You have Penix being very inconsistent with his accuracy.
The only guy worse. No, not the only guy. The worst version of that stat you were bringing out with Bo Nix. So his
missed yards.
Yeah, but his is the rate. He's got the worst rate. You did it again. His is the worst rate of misses of any quarterback in the NFL. The number of yards he's left on the table with those misses is nowhere near as bad as Bo Nix, but he's missing at a worse rate than anybody else.
Keep the plug away from me over here. Keep the plug away. And then you get the Colts offense, right? They turn the ball over 5 times, 6 times?
6 turnovers.
6, but what does that include that's the punt, Muff?
Probably, yeah.
So you got Jones throwing 3 interceptions, strip sacks. Was that just the Steelers and them playing their game, or can the Colts get back on track here? The Falcons' defense has not been the same without Divine Diablo. They made a couple big plays last week. They did get an interception on Drake May. They had the strip sack with the 2 rookies getting involved there. But the Falcons not creating as much havoc as they were earlier in the year, a couple weeks removed from losing to the Dolphins in that offense. So I think the Colts should have the advantage there.
Yeah, I mean, anytime a team turns over the ball that many times, you assume that's probably not happening 2 weeks in a row. So, if they go back to just turning the ball over, not at all, or even just a couple of times, you would assume they're in a far better situation in this game than coughing it up 6 times. I would assume this offense bounces back because it's too good not to. But, we have seen this Falcons defense really throttle good offenses. Like, they haven't just done it against bad teams or they've been inconsistent, but they have shown up at times and absolutely destroyed teams.
A huge game. Obviously, the Colts are trying to – it's not a conference game, but the Colts are trying to keep up with the top of the AFC. Them, Broncos, Patriots are all sitting here at 7-2. And the Falcons, they don't have much more margin for error here.
Right.
Once promising – lost a couple close games, but also just the most confusing team in the NFL, right? They wrecked the Bills on Monday Night Football. They got wrecked by the Panthers 31-0, and so didn't know really what to make. I think the Dolphins game, though, was just a huge turning point. They were, the Falcons were very competitive against the Patriots last week. They were a missed extra point away from being tied with a couple minutes left in the fourth quarter. So it's not like 3-5, sometimes you're like 3-5 or 7-2. It's a big mismatch. Like, the Falcons any week can be really competitive.
Yeah.
And you just don't know what you're going to get from them on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they really are, I think, the most confusing team in the NFL. When they are on, they look phenomenal. And when they're not, they look terrible. And there's very little reason why each happens. There's nothing you can point to that says, even in hindsight, this is the thing that should have alerted us to the fact that this would be a bad performance. It just seems random.
Yeah. Jalen Walker creating some big plays on the defensive side for the Falcons last week. They're going to need that. If they can force some of the turnovers, if turnovers become an issue for the Colts in the coming weeks, then, things change. And then you get, the Daniel Jones discussion really quick. I think he's had a very good season. I still don't think you're going to say, hey, he's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. The production could end up there, but I think that's a whole scheme thing. At some point, you do have to trust him. And, was last week a sign of things to come or just a blip, right? Quarterbacks have bad games. It was a bad one for Jones. Will he be able to bounce back from that?
Yeah, really for the Colts overall. This is their chance to show that they're not, that they are for real, which I think people had basically assumed they were up until they got wrecked by Pittsburgh. And now it's like, well, are they really? Or did they just have a run and now they've got to show that they are a genuinely elite contender? I mean, Daniel Jones only ranks 12th in PFF grade. That PFF grade is not a million miles away from what he's done previously with the Giants.
It's sixth in EPA, right? So that same Jordan Love discussion I'm talking about.
It's sixth in EPA. It's second in success rate. It's second in non-play action EPA. Like, there's a bunch of different ways where it looks a lot better than that. But he's now settling into this world where it's basically playing, on a throw-by-throw basis. You could at least argue that he's playing in a similar vein than he's played previously. It's just that everything around him is better, and that's why it's looking so much better. And this is not necessarily a bad thing, by the way. Like, this, if that happens, that's fine. Like, Daniel Jones was capable of solid quarterback play, and if you improved everything around him, solid quarterback play plus elite receiver, elite running back, good offensive line, elite coaching equals one of the better offenses in the NFL. So that's okay for that to be the case, but it is kind of interesting that this guy, we were talking about for a couple of weeks. Oh, MVP was in the conversation. If actually he just settles into, he's still Daniel Jones. It's just that everything else is good.
All right, man. It should be a fun one. 9:30 a.m. from Germany. Colts favored by 6.5 here. Where are you going to go?
I'm going to bet on them to bounce back. Plus, I can't possibly bet on Atlanta because I don't understand them. So
I know. My misunderstanding of Atlanta is them keeping it close here.
Right.
I would say. So I'll take the Falcons.
I'm going to bet on the Colts to win and cover a fairly significant line in Germany.
Especially in Germany. Outdoors. Got to go the outdoor factor here for Indy. So, yeah, I'll take Atlanta. Harry's going to take Indy to win and cover. All right, Fanduel has a new offer for NFL fans that you don't want to miss. New customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, Fanduel has live bets on everything from who will score to who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join because Fanduel is giving new customers $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. You can visit fanduel.com/33rd to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Must be 21 plus and present in select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only, $5 first deposit required. Bonus issue is non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. For gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Today, we do have a prop bet to discuss on that Colts game. Jonathan Taylor, his over-under is 91.5 rushing yards against the Falcons. It is an interesting running back matchup with Bijan and Jonathan Taylor here. Can Taylor go over 91.5?
Yeah, I mean, two of the most talented running backs, certainly in the NFL. Taylor's just crushing this season. You've got the Bijan Robinson Falcons running offense, like the rest of the Falcons, is just confusing. Sometimes it's dominant, sometimes it's not. And again, very little reason as to when and why that's going to show up.
I'll give you some Falcons run defense stats.
Sure.
Nothing definitive either way. The first one, though, it's interesting. Heavy boxes, fourth. So they crowd the line of scrimmage more than most. Middle of the pack in EPA per rush, they're 21st. EPA per rush allowed. Yards before contact, 21st. Yards after contact, 12th. So nothing definitive either way as far as the Falcons' run defense goes.
Yeah, other than, it just being a middle-of-the-pack run defense. Middle-of-the-pack run defense going up against the league's best rusher this season, you would say means a 100-yard game, therefore over.
Yeah. I'm an over guy when it comes to
always
these prop bets.
Have you said anything is under during the course of this?
I'm going to go under. We'll go under on this. Under on Jonathan.
Oh, you're going under this?
Yeah, under today. 91's a lot.
It is.
91.5 is a lot. We'll go under this time.
Ooh.
For this one. FanDuel.com/33rd. Go check it out. New England Patriots at the Tampa Bay Bucks. Tom Brady Bowl. Bucks favored by 2.5 here at home. Over/under is 48.5. Bucks coming off their bye. They're 6-2. Patriots 7-2. Right in that 6-game win streak, and probably the biggest challenge that they've had since that Buffalo game on Sunday night.
Yeah, the Patriots have been impressive because they've had a variety of different challenges every week. Even the bad teams, they've presented challenges in sort of different ways. Like, the Saints one was, well, okay, can you avoid a trap game, having just had the big emotional win against Buffalo? And then Tennessee, it's can you win with authority against a team that bad? And then Cleveland, you've got Myles Garrett and what they can deploy. He's actually getting hit and, beat up a bit against Cleveland. Can you still win and look good? And then Atlanta, what they can deploy. Tampa Bay, a new challenge in a couple of different ways, I think. Not new. Well, it's the first really good team that they faced again since Buffalo. So that's part of it. It's not that it's new that they haven't faced a good team, but it's been a while since they faced a legitimately good team. And then two, the Todd Bowles defense. The fact that he's one of the most blitz-happy defensive coaches in football, that's a unique defense to face for any quarterback. So, it's not that, can Drake May deal with the blitz? Just how does he handle this blitz? Because it is different to other teams.
Yeah, and the Drake May discussion is a good one, right? I mean, it's interesting because you have everyone that loves Bo Nix is comparing him to May and Jaden Daniels and everything, and by most metrics, Drake May looks better than Bo Nix, except the whole pressure to sack rate, the sack percentage, the scrack. Some of the hidden stuff, right? If you're gonna nitpick Drake May's breakout here in year 2, it's those plays. It's when he's pressured. Does the play become a sack or not? And it's really high. Where is he high? It's a crazy number. 34% of his pressured dropbacks become sacks. You want that number around 15. In the best, they're going to be around 10. So it's a huge factor, especially with the Bucs, how they send their linebackers, how they send 5 and 6 rushers, and if there's any sort of hesitation, if you don't know exactly where you want to go with the ball, negative plays. That's what's going to happen. So I think May has been outstanding throwing the ball. I know we've seen all of those completion percentage and passer rating numbers, and it's those numbers are good in part because he's not throwing the ball away, because he's saving the passer rating and some of the traditional passing stats because he's getting tackled behind the line of scrimmage. So I think you got to cut those sacks in half. And then, keep making the downfield throws that he's making. Drake May has been outstanding from an accuracy and I would say decision-making standpoint. Where to throw the ball has been great. In the last few weeks, we're seeing a few more big-time throws, in-between coverages, pinpoint down the field. I think May has been outstanding. Just a matter of you got to cut down on those negative plays at this point.
And he's been specifically outstanding against the blitz. Now, again, it doesn't always scale, right? Yeah. Todd Bowles' defense will blitz a lot more, so it doesn't necessarily hold that just because you're good against the blitz in overall broad terms, you're going to be good against the blitz against a team that does it all the time and does it in confusing ways. But this season, Drake May against the blitz, passer rating of 125, which is 4th, EPA of total EPA of 30, which I think is 3rd, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and completing 73.7% of his passes, which might be the most impressive number of all those ones. That against the blitz, he's not throwing the ball, in any kind of ill-advised way.
All of the completion percentage numbers for May, I think he's at 74 for the year, right? All of those numbers are just through the roof this year. Mm-hmm. So, for a guy that people questioned his footwork and, hit the easy stuff. I mean, he's done all of that and then some. I loved him throwing to the middle of the field. I think Josh McDaniels is leaning into that, the deep over routes that when he throws to Hunter Henry over the middle, Demario Douglas over the middle, it's been really good. So yeah, I think May against Bulls defense and just staying efficient against the blitz and finding a way to only get sacked once or twice in a game. Because again, if you look at a lot of the pass blocking metrics as well, the Ben Baldwin's composite has the Patriots in the top 5. So the pass blocking, right? So the pass blocking versus the sack rate does not match up. I think even New England media, I saw our old friend Doug Kide writing about this, where they asked Drake May, and he said, yeah, a bunch of the sacks are on me. And they're writing about it, right? So it's good. We've got some better analysis, I think, around the media where people aren't like, man, the Patriots' offensive line is still awful. Look at the sack rate. Like you watch the games, you realize that's more on the quarterback. And this isn't picking on May, who I think is a legitimate MVP candidate and has been outstanding. It's more like, imagine if he just throws a couple more away and saves a few yards here and there and keeps them on schedule a bit better. then, sky's the limit for what that offense can do.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. This is like when Aaron Rodgers was at his peak, and you're like, does he take a few more sacks at the cost of, these interceptions? Like the interception rate, best of all time, sack rate, is he taking just a few too many of these? Like, would the optimal version of Rodgers be a little bit more aggressive and, take a fewer of these sacks to maybe, have a couple more big plays and maybe even turn the ball over once or twice more? Like, I think it's okay to say, look, Drake May is playing phenomenally right now, but look, there's this one area where we can improve just a little bit more, even further, like make him even better, and that's where you end up as a truly great quarterback.
The other thing that you would use in May's favor is how ineffective the Patriots' run game has been this year, just as far as pure efficiency. It's down near the bottom of the league. So it's been a one-dimensional offense. I know they've had games where they've maybe gotten the yards, but it's been because they've just stuck with it and run the ball a lot, or they had the lead and they just kept stacking carries. But
presumably the efficiency thing gets hurt by Ramondre coughing up the ball every 3 seconds.
Yeah, that hurts. The fumbles definitely hurt. But even without Ramondre in there and without the turnovers, it's a lot of like 1 and 2 and negative yard gains, and so they're doing it without a really effective run game as well. And when you go up against this Bucs defense, Todd Bowles, they generally do what they can to take away the run, make you one-dimensional. So I think a lot is going to be on May in this game. Other side of the coin, you've got Baker Mayfield going from early season MVP candidate, kind of came back down to earth the last couple weeks, and before the bye, banged up a little bit in a couple of those games as well, but it'll be interesting to see if they can get back on track as far as their pass game goes.
Yeah, I think that's definitely they were riding their luck for a lot of that run against, or when they were very banged up, and Baker Mayfield was making miracles happen with his legs and the scramble, and like his scrambling EPA is still top 3, top 4, something like that. Like they were off the charts insane, the scrambles that he was making. At an unsustainable level, like even though he was sustaining it for a while, I don't think there's any real way you can do that for an entire season. So when that comes back down to earth, regresses towards the mean, they're going to need to pick up that slack somewhere else.
Yeah.
And whether that's, getting Bucky Irving back and improving the run game, whether that's just generally getting healthier and being able to be more efficient everywhere else, it is going to need to get better.
So Bucky Irving, Chris Godwin, and Hassan Reddick not at practice yesterday. We'll see what happens there. Luke Gedeke, though, the starting right tackle. Right tackle's been an issue as far as pressure goes for the Bucs. Luke Gedeke, the starting right tackle, has opened up his 21-day practice window for return, coming off of injured reserve. So that's been the narrative for us with the Bucs this season. Even if they don't have Bucky and Godwin this week, at some point those guys will be back.
Yeah,
Gedeke will be back, and the fact that the Bucs are sitting here at 6-2, and even if some of the results were on the luckier side, right? Some scramble plays, some key fourth downs, 4 last-minute wins. That is very tough to sustain. It got you to 6-2 before some of those players are coming back. So I think Tampa Bay is in pretty good shape here. But this is a good one. It's a big test for New England against a good team. And then Tampa Bay coming off their bye with the Panthers, coming up, catching up potentially in the South at 5-4. You can't slip up if you're the Bucs now. So Bucs by 2.5. Where are you going to go with this one?
Where am I going to go with this one? Tampa Bay.
I will take New England on the road. I think they'll pass this test. I think we got a good game. It's 1 o'clock on Sunday. Should be a really good one. Harry's going to take Tampa Bay in this one. Let's go Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans. Texans favored by 1.5. C.J. Stroud officially will be out for this game, so we'll see Davis Mills starting for the Texans. Don't look directly at that over-under by Fanduel. It is 37.5 for Davis Mills. And then the Jags going up against this Texans defense.
Yeah, Stroud, of course, with that concussion from last game where he gets absolutely blasted. Big hit at the time, keeping him out of this game. Davis Mills comes in. I mean, Davis Mills is a capable backup, a guy that, he's not as good, obviously, as C.J. Stroud, but it's not going to completely transform this game to something that the Houston Texans have no shot at. But classic dynamic every week with Houston is, does the opposition have a formidable enough pass rush that your offensive line can survive? And Jacksonville can bring some heat. I mean, Josh Hines-Allen, they've got players that can cause all kinds of problems.
Trayvon Walker back last week, then he got booted from the game for throwing a punch. I think their defense has, as much as I've picked on Trayvon through the years, their defense has looked better when he's been out there. He looked like he was maybe coming into his own and has enough of those plays where he creates some havoc. So I think having him, Eric Armstead, Josh Hines-Allen, having all those guys out there does help Jacksonville's pass rush quite a bit. They've also come back down to earth as far as the turnovers go, right? Remember, they were forcing 3 turnovers per game earlier in the year for the Jags. That was never going to be sustainable, and so their defense has kind of settled in as a middle-of-the-pack type of unit. So there should be some opportunities, I think, for Houston, but it should be a good matchup up front as well as far as the Jags front against the Texans' offensive line that could determine that side of the ball. Other side, Trevor Lawrence gets a new weapon, Jacoby Myers coming to town. GM James Gladstone had a statement. His superpower is catching the ball. And I'm so interested in the discussions that happen in buildings. Because you mentioned yesterday, like Jacoby Myers' drop rate is outstanding, right? And I think he does other stuff well, right? He's a good route runner. He's a good, what I would consider your classic number 2 receiver, where if you had the best of Brian Thomas Jr. on the other side, it's like a perfect complement, I think, to that skill set, Travis Hunter aside. Knowing that Hunter's hurt. I just wonder how much in the building Gladstone and Liam Cohen, they're sitting there like, man, nobody can catch the ball. Just give me anybody who can catch. And they go get Jacoby Myers for a 4 and a 6.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of joked about it a bit, but it does appear to be a significant part of the reasoning of why they went and got him. And look, it's not entirely crazy. Like the kind of the EPA or the production that's been left on the table in Jacksonville because of guys dropping the football or just simply not coming up with it is insane. Now, what will be a pretty interesting test is how much of a factor is the quarterback in that. People like to think of drop rate as a completely independent data point from the guy throwing the football, and I don't think it is. I'm not saying quarterbacks cause drops necessarily, but I think they definitely contribute to them. So you've got this guy right now, superpower, says GM, is that he doesn't drop the football. Does that still hold with a guy who appears to at least contribute or to an accelerated drop rate from his receivers on a fairly consistent basis? That'll be a pretty interesting case study to monitor. But yeah, and because of that, right? You've got this guy that doesn't drop the football. You have supreme confidence in him. Like, does he just get a ton of targets right off the bat? Does he become a huge part of this offense because they have confidence that he just doesn't drop the ball?
That's a really good question there because I think he might. One of our 33rd team, from our 33rd team research packet is the phrase I'm looking for here. The Jags are averaging 8.4 yards per play throwing against man. That's 6th in the NFL. They're only at 5.1 yards per play against zone. That's 25th in the NFL. So if you think about against zone, like Jacoby Myers is a zone beater, right? Understands where to be,
right?
Gets open, catches the ball. Now, does he understand where to be with 1 week in the offense?
Sure.
Where Jacoby's played in Josh McDaniels' offense and pretty much just Josh McDaniels' offense, whatever they ran, who they have last year. Similar? Was it a similar offense? I can't remember. And then Chip Kelly. So is this his first time in the true West Coast offense? It might be. I don't have everything off the top of my head here. I guess my point is, on paper, Jacoby Myers is a great zone beater against a zone-heavy team in the Texans who have great corners. But, can they be on the same page that quickly? Because I like the way you phrased it. You asked the question, would you target him a ton? They've had games where they've just fed Parker Washington.
Yeah.
And so, look, I think Washington's still going to be a big part of this offense. But if they can get Myers up to speed, I think they do feed him the ball.
The way their targets are distributed this year, it's almost like that's what they're looking for. Like we're just trying to find the guy that consistently catches the football, and he's going to get the ball most. Like it's almost like that's their priority as a target share decision making flow chart. Brian Thomas Jr. not particularly reliable when it comes to catching the football, so we're not going to give him that many targets. Travis Hunter's job was getting scaled up because Travis Hunter's got good hands.
Right.
I mean, I honestly wonder if they're thinking about it not quite that simplistically, but that's a big variable in what they're doing.
And then from a Trevor Lawrence perspective, it's, again, find whichever numbers you want to tell the story. I see the numbers out there. Most, EPA, lost on drops, and drop rate. And Trevor Lawrence is near the top in all of those things. And I also don't think he's playing great, right? You have last week where he has this awful end zone interception early, and then he throws an absolute dime deep out, 16 yards along the sideline right on his receiver's hands where the receiver doesn't even have separation. And it's like, when I use the phrase big time throw, I describe that as like creating a big play that might not even be there, right? That shouldn't even be there. That's what that deep comeback was last week that Trevor Lawrence threw, a deep comeback, like a big play that shouldn't even have been there, but the throw was so good. So he keeps going back and forth between throwing those beautiful throws that create explosives or create big plays versus, some inaccuracy and boneheaded decisions. And then against a really tough Texans defense.
Yeah.
I think if the Jags win this one, it's their backs out of the backfield, some of the Liam Cohen's screen game, his red zone screen game that they've been really good at in the McVay tree over the last few years. I think that's the type of stuff where they're going to have to hit some of those plays.
Targets this year for Jacksonville wide receivers. Brian Thomas Jr. with 60, Travis Hunter 45, Parker Washington 44, De'Ami Brown 34, and then down to, ETN at running back 27. Brenton Strange has been hurt 24. Like, Brian Thomas Jr. is the number one target, but when you consider the fact that Travis Hunter's role has been sort of started small, getting scaled up, Parker Washington's been a bit-time player for them, the fact that they're as close as they are to a guy like Brian Thomas Jr., who coming out of last year looked like he should be like a number one, league-leading type of player, is, I think, indicative of, Brian Thomas Jr.'s got 7 drops and has a bunch of plays where things haven't been right even outside of drops.
Something's off there, right?
Yeah.
With those two guys.
And to be clear, I think drops are predominantly a receiver data point, but I absolutely think quarterbacks influence them. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works with Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, if Lawrence starts throwing the ball off target enough that Myers can't catch the ball and his drop rate goes through the roof, then, blame the quarterback a little bit. Mm-hmm. I don't think Lawrence has ever been the best pinpoint accurate quarterback throw for throw, but again, he has those where he could just hit the top of his drop and then just rip it outside the numbers, and it's like, wow, that's pretty special. Last thing, Texans pass rushers, of course, Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter. I think the Jags have done a pretty good job in pass pro overall, but if they could just speed Trevor Lawrence up a little bit, even if they're not getting pressure, just the threat of having them, I'm interested to see how Lawrence handles that, because they speed up quarterbacks.
Yeah.
That's like another factor. Like if you looked at the hard data against the Texans, they have a low completion percentage on downfield passes the last 2 years. But how many times have we looked at it and been like, these dudes are wide open? But it's like as a team defense, it's because they speed up quarterbacks and the internal clock's quicker. Lawrence missed a bunch last year against the Texans down the field. Like, you have to hit some of those and not be sped up, because sometimes it happens when there's not even pressure.
Yeah, their defense was so impressive last week against Denver. Now, again, there were throws to be made, and Bo Nix made a couple of them and left a couple on the table. But that's part of what that defense is able to do. Like, they do force you into the sort of, as much as guys being open down the field is a bad thing for a defense, those are inherently lower percentage plays. There's this, there's a tension between, you don't want to give up explosive plays. Like, that's what defense has been so focused on the last few years, is limiting explosive plays. On the other hand, those explosive plays are inherently low percentage. So there's one way where you kind of want to be funneling teams towards that, because they don't hit very many of those. But the problem is, if you do that and they do hit them, you're in trouble. And you can argue that the Eagles did that a couple of weeks ago, right, where they weren't actually that efficient, but they just hit a bunch. Jalen Hurts hit all the deep shots that he attempted, and that's the difference in the game.
That's a good point. I think that might be it. Like, Trevor's got to hit a couple of those opportunities, and I think the screen game with Liam Cohen and what they've done. All right, Texans by 1.5 over under 37.5. Where are you going to go?
I'm going to go with the Jags. I think their defensive front is enough that they win the game.
I'll take the Jags as well. By the way, season-wise, Harry's going to take Houston. I don't know if he knows about the Stroud injury, so I'll check with him later. So Harry could change it. Texans are sitting here at 3-5. As a Texans believer all season,
yeah,
they're
not a team without much margin for error anymore.
They're in must-win territory now, and that's a tough one. So yeah, you and I are taking the Jags. We'll see what Harry ends up doing. New York Giants at the Chicago Bears. Bears favored by 4.5 here. They are coming off their big win against the Cincinnati Bengals, 5-3 against the 2-7 Giants.
Yeah, the Chicago Bears, who I don't think anyone really thinks are particularly good at the moment, but that 5-3 record is like these things start to stack up, and the same meme is being applied in multiple case studies throughout the NFL. Though there's this one, and the meme is Tiger Woods looking all jacked and buttoned up and professional,
yes.
And John Daly there with his giant beard smoking a cigarette and huge gut hanging out, and the two of them are sitting there with the same record. The Lions and the Bears are effectively in the same spot with 5-3, and then the other one is Carolina and somebody else.
The Chiefs. Carolina and the Chiefs are both 5-4.
With 5-4. And that's where Chicago is right now. Like they haven't looked as impressive, and as much as they have the same record, like their overall point differential is like 70-something points worse than Detroit. So they aren't as good, but you are what your record says you are, according to Bill Parcells. So they're the same.
It's a big opportunity for the Bears going up against a 2-win Giants team. Then they're at Minnesota, and then so the next 4 weeks, Bears should be able to win this game, move to 6-3, and then they get tested at Minnesota, against the Steelers, at Philadelphia, at Green Bay. So those are their next 4 games. I'm not saying either way what's going to happen. But by the way, they have Green Bay twice in 3 weeks, actually into December. But it's a much more difficult schedule for the Bears to make a run here. They got to take care of business in this game.
Sure. The big variable, we're going to focus on Caleb Williams and the offense and all that. The big variable, though, has been this defense where, a few weeks ago against, admittedly, the Saints, they absolutely murdered them. The Saints had no shot. The defense, the pass rush was formidable. They just destroyed them. And then last week they looked like they couldn't stop anything. They gave up 1 million yards and all those points to Joe Flacco and his busted shoulder. What is this defense? Because if the one that shows up that can't defend, well, then Jackson Dart has shown a lot. They might be able to run the ball as well. All good things could be in store for the Giants. If the defense shows up that actually has some teeth, well, then you would say this is a game they could and should win comfortably.
We talked last week about their pass rush just not getting home quickly. Dayo Odeyingbo is out for the season now. Achilles, so he's been placed on IR after his injury last week. They just traded for Joe Tryon-Shoyinka to try to at least add some depth on the edge. I'll tell you the guy that could maybe not solve it, but Austin Booker, second-year player, 4th rounder out of Kansas, looked awesome last week in his debut for this season. And he's shown tons of flashes in the last couple preseasons, various plays during the regular season last year. If they could get him going, he's long, explosive. He didn't test well at the combine, but just plays like he's explosive. Put Orlando Brown on his back on one rush last week. He could be the guy that really helps up front opposite Montez Sweat and Gervon Dexter up in the middle. But you're right, the inconsistency of the Bears defense is, I'd say, it's difficult, right? I think they're depleted. They've been depleted in the secondary relative to who they would like to have out there.
Right.
That's been hit or miss. Pass rush has been inconsistent. And I would even say offensively, they have games where they're if you look at some of the blocks, Darnell Wright and Theo Benedet, and they're playing bully ball in not every week, but they have elements of the Lions bully ball that Ben Johnson loves. Now they did it against the Bengals, or they did it 2 weeks ago against the Saints. Can they do it against the Giants' defensive front, which has been hit or miss relative to their expectations?
Yeah.
So I think that's a fun matchup in here. So the Bears have a lot of I would say flashes of what Ben Johnson wants. And then there's other elements of, procedural stuff and inconsistencies that just they're not there yet, but I think they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. Darnell Wright is such a fun offensive lineman to watch. Like, he's that classic old school coaches would have loved that dude.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's the classic highlight reel offensive lineman where his positive blocks, his, the blocks where he absolutely crushes dudes. That's what offensive line coaches love to see. And, he loses a little bit more than some other offensive linemen, but I think there are coaches that absolutely want that trade-off. Like, we want the guy that crushes people and will take a couple more losses than the guy that, never loses but doesn't necessarily get a ton of movement either. I mean, that block he had on Shamar Stewart was absolutely crazy. I think it says as much about Shamar Stewart as it does about him, but still, amazing play to watch. And, yeah, those are making a huge difference for this run game.
33rd team, research team, stat to keep an eye on. If you're watching this game, we'll give you something to watch here. Jackson Dart, who's been outstanding, running the ball, scrambling, 7.7 yards per scramble. The Bears have been one of the worst against quarterback scrambles, 11.3 yards per scramble. That's 31st in the NFL. So Jackson Dart, is he going to be running a lot? So you've got this Bears pass rush that's not getting home quickly and not necessarily the best as far as, lane integrity and gap discipline goes, rushing the quarterback. Could be, eyes open for Jackson Dart, looking for some opportunities to run the ball.
And, he's just a threat to run the ball, like even independent of scrambles. Like, they're going to use him in the design run game as well. He's going to carry the ball.
Great. Oh, that's the train of thought. Great. I didn't start previewing a different game at least.
No, that's true.
Me and my throwback brain. Part of me was like, man, what if this was 1985? What if this was Lawrence Taylor?
Just sitting here daydreaming about 1985 randomly.
What if this was what if it wasn't a 2-7 Giants team and an up-and-coming Bears team, and it was like the two powerhouses in the NFC in the mid-'80s? I'll go watch one of those games later today. Little Bears-Giants game from the 80s. Where are you going with this one?
I am going to go
Bears by 4.5.
I'm going to go with the Bears to win and cover, confusing though their defense has been.
I think both sides confusing.
Well, the offense, I think, at least makes a bit more sense. Like, Caleb Williams is just an inherently volatile, inconsistent player right now, and that's kind of shaking out, I think, to like just an average player, but in a fairly predictable pattern, whereas the defense just been chaos.
Yeah, I'll take the Bears to win and cover, as will 10-year-old Harry. Here's a fun one. Baltimore Ravens at the Minnesota Vikings. Baltimore by 4.5 on the road here in Minnesota. Just the lowly 3-5 Ravens.
Lowly 3-5 division favorite.
And the 4-4 Vikings with the rejuvenated season with J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
Back under center. Defense looking good last week. Should be a fun matchup here Sunday at 1.
It should be. Yeah, both teams are a lot more interesting than they were a few weeks ago. Baltimore do look completely resurgent. The defense looks better. Lamar Jackson looks like MVP Lamar Jackson. And as long as that, even that, forget the defense. Even if the defense was terrible, the fact that Lamar Jackson is back being MVP Lamar means everything is on the table for Baltimore's perspective. The defense being improved, even if it's not necessarily good, is obviously a huge thing in their favor as well. Like, Kyle Hamilton is such a talented player that they can just move him to wherever the weakness is on the defense, and he will make it better. Doesn't matter where it is, just play him there. And that gives you so much flexibility, because now you just have to determine, like, what is the weaker area? We just put Hamilton there, right?
Yeah.
And you can make something specifically better just by moving Kyle Hamilton to wherever you need him. That's huge. And then J.J. McCarthy looked pretty good last week. Now, again, I think that's going to be inconsistent. I think he's going to be all over the map based off the limited sample size we've seen from him. But, there was probably a degree of mental strength and fortitude that he needed to have that kind of performance. Like, most people were pretty down on J.J. McCarthy. The term soft benching was being thrown around. Like, he couldn't have been feeling great heading into that game. Like, there must have been quite a lot of pressure on him to show up and not be ass, right? And actually show that you can take this job and make the most out of Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and their weapons there, and not disappoint, Kevin O'Connell, this genius coach that's supposedly propping you up. Like, I think there was quite a lot of pressure on him in that game, and he answered.
I mean, there's something to that. I mean, I was on our friend Matthew Collar's show yesterday, and I brought up, how many times have I brought up Bo Nix on this show on non-Broncos discussions? But like the same thing that is with Bo Nix, like if you go through throw by throw and you really analyze it and this and that, maybe it's not the best overall performance for Bo or last week for JJ, but there was a handful of great throws in there, right?
Yeah.
Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, the back shoulder to Jalen Naylor, but that was the key, right? Like when in crunch time on third and long scramble drill touchdown, third and long back shoulder to Naylor. Now, the analyst in me often says, let's see it throw for throw. Like, can you just always be clutch? Can you always make the big throw? But there is something to that in football generally, right? Is making the plays when you need to. It doesn't mean you're always going to. Of course, you're going to fail. But I think that's what is going to be most intriguing about J.J. McCarthy, right? Even when we were describing him as, 7 out of his 8 quarters were bad. Well, the one quarter that was good was in crunch time, fourth quarter against the Bears to go win the game, right? So now we've seen that a couple times from J.J. McCarthy. If that's going to be a thing, then, you'd rather have more consistency throughout the game. But it's a good trait to have, right? Is the ability with the ball in your hands to make the right decisions and give your chance a team to win if it's close. And JJ's done that twice now this year. One in a comeback attempt, and then against the Lions to seal it, just to keep the lead. So that's been impressive.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't need to be predictive. Like, the point is, he's already shown a significant degree of mental resilience because of those clutch plays, and if that can buy him a little bit of time to improve, which obviously as a young quarterback he needs to do, that's the important thing. But you've already seen him able to maximize guys like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, the rest of the receivers in that core. He can be effective in this offense. That offensive line from Minnesota being back is huge. Baltimore's defensive front is not scary anymore. Like, that's a group you won't be terrified of going up against. 4/5 of that line for the Vikings is intact. They can run the ball better when that's the case. J.J. McCarthy is protected better when that's the case, which gives him the platform to go after those receivers. Like I said, the thing that stood out to me last week was how rough he was on the move. Was that just a bad game, or is that going to be a weakness of his game? That'll be something interesting to look at.
He was good at that at Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, so that's what I'm saying. Like, it might have just been a rough day where everything he threw on the move was off target. But that was a problem last week. If that bounces back this week, I mean, he might be capable of even better play off the back of that.
And then, you mentioned Baltimore's defensive front. I'd be interested to see how that evolves in the coming weeks here. They added Draymond Jones from the Titans as a pass rusher. We've mentioned the Kyle Hamilton thing just to add some color to what you've described there. So the first 5 weeks, he'd only spent 36% of his time either in the box or slot, so in and around the line of scrimmage. That's been jacked up to 94%. That's his new role. Ravens' rush yards allowed have gone from 146 down to 86 with Kyle Hamilton's new alignment. He's blitzing 5 to 8 times a game now.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a factor. So for a team that has not had a very good pass rush, can Hamilton create some havoc up front, some indecision on the offensive line? Draymond Jones, does that help the pass rush a little bit? And can they get Mike Green going in the second half? Again, who's shown some spurts but has been underwhelming, I'd say, as a second-round rookie so far this season. So those are my Ravens questions. And then, offensively, we haven't seen him since last Thursday against Miami. Lamar Jackson made his return, looked really good. They didn't run him at all. If the offense gets back to what they've been under Lamar Jackson, I mean, that's the same old Ravens team. Good luck trying to beat this team. You got to play really good football.
Yeah, I mean, that's Flores going up against Lamar Jackson will be a pretty fun matchup.
A lot of fun on that side of the ball. The Ravens run game against the Minnesota run defense. Again, I hate predicting run defense because you just never know when it's going to be good. Minnesota's run defense had been awful for most of the season, and then they just step up and slow down the Lions. They had a great game plan for the Lions' passing attack, for creating mismatches in the pass game, forcing Jahmyr Gibbs to pass block and just taking them out of their game. But that when the Ravens' offense is cooking, it is really difficult to do that to them because they have so many answers. Run game, pass game, Lamar running. So should be a fun matchup on that side.
Lamar running and Derrick Henry if he gets loose. I mean, the thing that's characterized this Vikings run defense when it hasn't been good is that they blow gaps. And if you blow a gap and let Derrick Henry get ahead of steam into the second level, I mean, that's where he gets the big plays, right? Because then he's a stiff arm on a safety away from going the distance, and that could be a problem.
All right, man, it's 4.5. Ravens 3-5. Again, all these 3-5 teams, you just can't really slip up at this point. If Baltimore is actually going to make a run in the North, they got to win. They have to win these games, but it's the same thing with Minnesota. They're in the middle of this very difficult schedule, this game being one of them. They're in last place in the North, but they're a good team. They're built to be competitive in the NFC, so it's a huge game this week. Sunday at 1, Baltimore favored by 4.5.
Yeah, they're the one team, though, Baltimore, in this kind of 3-5 world where it feels like they can't slip up that much, but they have so much in their favor in terms of they probably were never that bad to begin with. You have an MVP caliber quarterback, and a lot of your games are against the teams that you would need to beat in order to overhaul that anyway. So they're in a kind of not quite unique, but an unusual situation where I think they're a much stronger position than, say, Houston, who's also 3-5, but are 4 games back from the Colts, who look good. I think that Lamar and the Ravens roll.
Yeah, I'll take the Ravens to cover, as will Harry. Quick break to talk about our friends over at Root Insurance. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates, so they've created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. Traditional car insurance companies focus on demographics like age, zip code, occupation, and credit score to price your coverage. When Root offers a rate, your behavior behind the wheel gets more weight than any other single factor. They don't use occupation or education level to negatively affect your rate. While you drive, Root gathers and analyzes data from your smartphone sensors. And after a few weeks, you'll get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving. Save up to 44% off your initial Root quote after you take the test drive. If you need a tow truck, jump start, or lock your keys in the car, Root will cover the help you need to get back on the road when you opt into roadside assistance. The Root app makes it easy to edit your coverage, update your policy, or file a claim in just 3 minutes. You can get started today at Root.com. All right, Sam, we got 5 more games to discuss here. Biggest game of the week. Cleveland Browns at the New York Jets. You think I'm joking?
Yeah.
We've got NFL draft implications on the line here. The future of the NFL hangs in the balance, potentially. Browns-Jets, Sunday at 1, Cleveland favored by 2.5 with an over-under of just 37.5. We're into November football, low over-unders. It's good times.
I mean, yeah, November football, low over-unders.
Bad offenses.
1-7 against 2-6. 2 teams that are currently dead on the board over there. Or at least one that was declared dead, and the other one is dead, and we just didn't get to it yet.
Cleveland Browns pulling one of the very few levers that you could pull in the season to try to make things better. Tommy Rees is now taking over the play calling.
Stefanski giving it up again.
Yeah.
2 years in a row, which, again, is not a great sign. The Jets, of course, having started their rebuild. It's not a rebuild. Definitely not a rebuild. Don't say that. Why would
it's not a teardown?
We're not tearing it down.
It's not a teardown.
We're not tearing it down. We only traded 2 guys. Only traded 2 guys. What are you talking about?
If you're a Jets fan, had a fun discussion yesterday for quite a while about the Jets, their plan, their multiple first and second rounders over the next couple of years, what that could look like. So go check that out.
This is one of those games, you see this pop up every so often as a joke. This game should be flexed to 4 a.m. on Fubo TV or whatever. Like, this is the game.
I saw one that said like 8:30 a.m. on Cartoon Network.
Right,
like that.
Same thing. Like, it's all variations of a theme.
And we're talking about this being for the NFL draft and everything. There are many teams with 1 and 2 losses right now. There's a lot of movement still at the top of the draft. New Orleans and Tennessee both 1 and 8. Jets are 1 and 7, would have the 3rd pick if the draft was today. Dolphins 2 and 7, Giants 2 and 7, Cleveland and the Raiders are 2 and 6. So still a lot of movement to be had for all those teams at the top of the draft. But if we're talking about this year's draft and what things could look like, Jets with their multiple first-round picks, Cleveland also has multiple first-round picks, so it's two teams not only maneuvering for draft position, but they also have maneuverability because they, especially the Jets, because of all of the first-round picks that they have, whether it's for this year or next year.
And this is important. Yeah, those are important. Like people, we made the point that, you're positioning yourself for the draft. And somebody was like, they're already positioned to get their quarterback based off where their pick is currently. Like, yeah, but that's only a game away from changing, right? Like, and if you think that a given draft is one quarterback strong or whatever, or it turns out that you think it's one quarterback strong when you get to that, when we get that kind of information, the ability to have the picks to then go get that guy as opposed to being stuck further down and need something else is important. Like the maneuverability that those extra draft picks brings is vitally important. Now, it doesn't mean that, the team ahead of you will take that draft haul. You can't just command that they make the trade if they're adamant that they won't move off that guy. But I do think it's important to have that extra layer of flexibility.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a football game. It's this Sunday. I'll still watch it. It'll be fun. There's some matchups to watch. Sunday. Myles Garrett and Olu Fashanu. Myles Garrett against everybody every week. Cleveland's defense. My whole thing is there's offense and defense for both sides. Only Cleveland's defense looks good.
Right.
And I think that ends up, that's why they're favored, and that, I think, ends up being the difference in the game. They play a lot of man coverage. You create any sort of indecisiveness from Justin Fields. As long as you don't lose gap discipline, I think they have a chance to get him to the ground a bunch and really slow down this Jets offense. And then, the Jets defense is down some good players.
That's what's going to be interesting. I'm curious if this can be a good Dylan Gabriel game. Now that the Jets shipped off an impact defensive lineman, they shipped off a really good cover guy. Brandon Stevens is like their number one corner now. Is this what allows Dylan Gabriel to actually look good for, is it harsh to say the first time in the regular season, to maybe have a career game, let's say, the best game we've seen from Dylan Gabriel? Like, can he actually show something that makes people go, maybe Dylan Gabriel can be a guy? Because at the moment, everyone's saying Dylan Gabriel he isn't an NFL quarterback, period.
He hasn't shown a lot.
Right.
It's been, as I've said before, for a guy that I think has a decent arm, I don't think it's a plus NFL arm, but he's got a pretty good arm. He's playing like a guy that has a, less than average NFL arm, dinking and dunking.
Right. But it's not a good situation. I mean,
it's not at all.
This is the same situation that made Joe Flacco look like an abysmal quarterback, and then he goes down the road to Cincinnati, and he's putting up 1 million yards and throwing touchdowns left, right, and center, and not putting the ball in harm's way because he's got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Now, maybe there's also some weird Joe Flacco black magic involved in that. Like, I'm not sure it's quite as simple as A-B situation, but it's certainly a factor. I mean, this is not a good spot for a quarterback to be playing in, but even with that, adjustment, I don't think Dylan Gabriel is playing well.
And I don't know how much. Look, we both like Shedeur Sanders over Dylan Gabriel coming out. We both liked Dylan Gabriel as QB4.
It's too soon.
So they were close. I'd like to at least see what Shedeur has at some point this season, even if the situation is bad. You think it's December for him?
Yeah. Telling you, this is by the numbers. This is how the season was going to go. We were going to have a month of Flacco, then we were going to get Dylan Gabriel, and then we're going to get a month of Shedeur to wrap the season up.
December to remember. Shedeur event.
He rolls in there with a big bow in his car.
Toyota-thon Shedeur.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. We got no more use for this game. Who we taking here? Cleveland by 2.5.
Am I going with the Browns to cover?
I am.
Yes, I am.
We're all taking the Browns. Me, you, and Harry. It's going to come back to bite, isn't it?
Sure.
Definitely is. New Orleans Saints at the Carolina Panthers. Your 5-4 Panthers are favored by 5.5 against the Saints.
Your 5-4 John Daly.
They're John Daly looking at Tiger Woods. I mean, if they win this game and the Chiefs come out and lose to the Broncos next week,
they're even better.
Forget it. They'll be, it's John Daly when he's like winning U.S. Opens back in the 90s. Forget about the smoking butts John Daly.
Yeah.
Fun matchup here. Tyler Shuck's second start. He only got to play football for 16 minutes last week. 13th lowest time of possession in NFL history since it's been tracked. What do you look for in this one?
I mean, this is interesting for Carolina because they're like heavy favorites for the first time, really, right? Like they've been winning these games, but when they win, it tends to be sort of confusing and, oh, we didn't expect them to be doing that. Well, now you're going up against New Orleans, who have, a young quarterback who just traded away one of his weapons, who doesn't have a great offensive line to begin with, whose defense is pretty terrible. I mean, you're just supposed to win. You're just supposed to go out there and be better than the Saints. So what does that look like for Carolina? I mean, they're not a bad team. We joke about the John Daly Tiger Woods meme. I don't think they're like the Chiefs or anything, but they've shown, they can go and win in an ugly fistfight against Green Bay. Like they can cause all kinds of problems for Atlanta. This is not a bad football team, and now they're favorites. Like that's a different dynamic for them.
Carolina doing some good stuff on the edges too. Whether it was taking the ball at the right time and some key fourth down conversions this year. Carolina's run game has been.
Are you saying the information provided by Dr. Eager?
It's got to be. It's all Eric. Eric's probably worth at least 3 wins above replacement relative
on his own,
to,
right?
Yeah, relative to every other player in the league.
Oh, okay, player.
Most valuable players are probably like Allen Mahomes, Dr. Eager.
Right. It's like that old question of how many elite quarterbacks would you take before a coach?
Yeah.
How many elite players would you take before the doctor?
It's like 4 quarterbacks, Andy Reid, Eric, and then the rest of the league.
Right.
Tied for 6th.
And then Kyle Shanahan.
So one of the things that they're doing, I wonder if Eric has an influence on this from our 33rd team research team. We studied this years ago at PFF. If you just disguise your safeties, especially against certain quarterbacks, if you just rotate your safeties, it creates enough, it adds a little bit of value as far as how well their offense performs.
A pretty significant chunk.
It's a significant one against Rodgers in
right.
particular.
And I think it's getting more powerful as that is being folded into all of this, Flores style of constant disguise and trickery and movement in the secondary.
And Carolina's number 1 in safety rotation rate, 52%. That's one of those things where the discussion between like the spreadsheet nerd and the defensive coordinator, you have to say it the right way. I keep like, hey man, just disguise coverage more often. It's
simply
like, hey,
rotate
here are the
your safeties and everything works.
Here are the numbers in the NFL. Let's pick a few spots per week where all we do is just get into it a little bit later. Defensive coaches know this.
Yeah.
But all you're encouraging them to do is maybe do it a couple more times, right? Do it a little bit more or do it in key situations. And those are some of the edges that you can win. The other interesting thing is the Carolina, so Eric would not suggest this, 62% run rate on first down. They are a heavy run on first down type of team, but it's working because they're averaging 5.5 yards per carry. So they're leaning into their strength, and they're staying on schedule and doing all those things by running because Rico Dowdle has been so good.
So I was going to say, maybe with Rico Dowdle, he would advocate that.
Maybe he would.
Dowdle looks phenomenal again.
And then if you are a Panthers fan or apologist, you might say, look, as long as we don't turn the ball over, we're a good team. And if you go back and you say, when have the Panthers lost control of certain games, it's been the turnovers, right?
They've dug
Dalton
themselves
a couple weeks ago, early in the year against Arizona, against New England. So they've had some games where it's like, as long as Bryce Young takes care of the ball, and they've limited how much Bryce Young has to throw, and they're limited in who they can throw to beyond Teterow and McMillan. That's still true as well. So they're an interesting team where they are at this point at 5-4, and now they're at a spot where, okay, if you are going to make a run at the Bucs, they have 2 games against the Saints. This is one of them. So now you have these games. You stole one, right? You upset the Packers, right? You won a game that you're not supposed to win. Now, if you win the games that you're supposed to, now we're talking about a Panthers team knocking on the door of a playoff push here in a deep NFC where there's a lot of teams with 5 and 6 wins right now.
I mean, they've put themselves in a pretty good position given what they have upcoming and given, where they are right now. And it is interesting that at 5-4, like a lot of the losses or the bad situations they've been in, they've kind of put themselves in there with like early turnovers. I want to check actually at some point, like how many of their turnovers on the season have come in the first quarter or like early in games and really dug themselves a hole. But despite that, they're 5-4 and in a pretty solid spot.
And then if you just look schedule-wise for Carolina, they have the Saints twice. I don't know if they're favored in any other game. They play Atlanta next week, but it's in Atlanta, or 2 weeks from now? Yeah, 2 weeks from now. Next week. So Atlanta's no bye coming off of Germany. Is that right? Atlanta at home. I know they killed Atlanta before, but it's still like going to the Dome. Would you? I just don't know if Carolina's favored against the Falcons, Niners, Rams, and the Bucs twice in Seattle. So in other words, big games here. Got to win these games that you're supposed to win. From New Orleans' perspective, get to see a little bit more of Tyler Shuck. Again, didn't really get to learn a whole lot last week. Didn't have any of those disastrous plays. If Carolina can force some of those, I think that goes a long way. Carolina's run defense has been very good outside of a couple games. And if that makes the Saints one-dimensional, force Shuck to pass and force him into one or two of those boneheaded decisions, I think that's certainly in the cards in this game flow-wise.
Yeah. It's strange. I don't know if we're going to learn anything about Tyler Shuck other than he probably was never going to be the long-term solution for this job anyway. Is the situation good enough? Like him, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, if and when he gets an opportunity, there's a few quarterbacks that are just being sort of fed to these machines when teams are already looking to next year, and that's it would take him to be unrealistically spectacular to change anything. Like if they're positioned at the top of the draft with a shot at a quarterback, are they not drafting one because Tyler Shuck is there, even though it was the highest drafted? Was he the highest drafted quarterback they had since Archie or something insane? Like he was the highest selection they've had at quarterback.
Yeah, for a while,
for
right?
some crazy length of time,
Sounds right.
Really long.
Aaron Brooks was a third rounder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like all their quarterbacks have either come from somewhere else or been.
And we even said it. We're like, yeah, you're probably still going to be picking near the top next year. I would be ready to move on.
It's like on the one hand, it's significant because you don't do that as a franchise. On the other hand, it's only a second-round pick, and if you're at the top of the draft next year, that's nothing.
If the season ended today, Saints have the first pick per tankathon. Over the Titans. So they would have their choice.
Wow.
By the way, if you're into...
the Titans have Cam Ward. They're probably not in the market anyway, but imagine being this bad and not getting the first overall pick.
The Jags had it. That's a rarity, right? You have the first overall pick, you take a quarterback, and then you're picking first for the next year like the Jags did in the Trayvon Walker draft. Titans absolutely have a shot to do that. Look, Shuck's got some high-end plays too. And look, I thought...
And he can, in rhythm, get the ball out quickly. Like he can do that part effectively.
The thing that was interesting to me when Nick Underhill was on the show last week to wrap up this game was he said essentially the Saints almost thought that Spencer Rattler was too conservative. Like that he got into this mode of playing like just don't turn it over. And then he was still turning it over. But he was also too conservative on third downs. And that is not how you would characterize Spencer Rattler's game. Normally, like he's more on the volatile, take too many sacks, but create some big plays type of side. And he had gotten too conservative. That is where New Orleans has a chance here with Shuck. If he's a little bit more aggressive, I know he's down Rashid Shaheed, but you still have Chris Olave, you have Juwan Johnson. If you get a little bit more aggressiveness out of Shuck, like there's still some guys to throw to there where they can create some plays and maybe they start to get the offense going a little bit more down the stretch here.
Yeah, there is more there on the table by just being aggressive. Like it was like Spencer Rattler was sort of playing not to lose his job, which ultimately lost him his job.
Yeah. Play to win. Don't play not to lose. All right. Pick a game. Pick a team. Carolina by 5.5 here at home.
I'm buying in to the Carolina Panthers as favorites to establish it, keep pounding, and dominate.
Yeah, I got Carolina, as does Harry. The Rico Dowdle MVP talk Monday morning. McAfee, Dowdle, 3 touchdowns and $150, and McAfee's bringing him into the MVP conversation. And
that would have to be conflicting to the doctor. On the one hand, he's a good company man. He wants to promote everything that the Panthers have got going. On the other hand, could he possibly live with himself promoting a running back for MVP?
The Panthers' social media is like MVP Dowdle question mark, and Eric's like. He's like clicking to favorite. Do I favorite
to repost or not to repost?
What do I do here? Yeah. I'll post everything that Carolina says, but
repost, but put in the bio clearly retweets are not endorsements.
Look, I'll keep pounding, but I can't pound the favorite button.
I know I've reposted this, but it's not an endorsement. I do not endorse this message because I'm a quarterback value man.
Oh man, is he going to call mad at us about this discussion? 3 more games. Buffalo Bills at the Miami Dolphins. Bills by 9.5 here in Miami. What's the weather?
What's the weather?
It's November.
It's Miami in November. How bad could it be?
It can't be that bad.
Yeah.
Can we get a weather report for Miami on Sunday, please?
So, on the one hand, you've got Miami quit for the first time, I think, the last time they played. On the other hand, or the last time Miami played. The last time Miami played Buffalo, though, we kind of expected them to quit, and they didn't. They actually played hard and kept it reasonably tight.
They played hard. They still ended up losing by 10.
Right. But that was covering, right? Like, wasn't that a monster number?
Yeah. It was 10, 10.5. It was in that range. That was one of the overs we took on James Cook. He got his rushing yard over in the second quarter.
Yes.
I wonder about the emotional aspect of things for Buffalo. They're coming off of just a pristine effort against Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
It was their best all-around game of the year, both sides of the ball. Josh Allen's 23 for 26. James Cook's running the ball well. Everything's good on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, they forced Mahomes into the lowest completion percentage of his career. They have this really high pressure rate on Mahomes. And again, I think that was more coverage taking away throws more so than just dominating up front. But it was unreal team defense from Buffalo. And they hold Kansas City to just 21 points after they had been looking pretty explosive. Really good all-around effort. Was that their midseason Super Bowl? Is there just an emotional letdown now going to Miami?
Yeah, I mean, is it at a similar kind of test for them that the Patriots had after beating Buffalo? Like, that was your emotional high. That was your Super Bowl, mid-season. You then have to avoid the trap game following that. And, I mean, I think Miami is a bit more dangerous than the New Orleans Saints were. But same idea. Like, you are heavy favorites for this game. Miami's season is kind of done. They've already fired their general manager. You are almost double-digit point favorites despite being on the road. You need to go up and take care of business and show that you're just way better than Miami is.
And I know we're talking about that from a narrative perspective, but it's also showing up in the injury report for Buffalo.
Yeah.
So Joey Bosa's questionable with a wrist. And I am not joking. You beat the Chiefs. Bosa looked great.
Shut him down.
I am legitimately saying you save him until the divisional round.
Well, particularly with Michael Hoyt popping his Achilles last week, with Ed Oliver on the shelf with a biceps, who might not make it back. I mean, it's one of those ones where, all being well, he'll be back for maybe the first or second round of the playoffs. But, that's just theory. He might not be back, and even if he is back, he might not look anything like Ed Oliver. So, for all intents and purposes, two of your defensive linemen are done. Joey Bosa is a really important guy remaining. And even theoretically, when everyone was healthy, you wanted Joey Bosa for January. Now you might need him.
And we're sitting here racking our brain, like, what can the Bills do differently in the regular season versus the playoffs, where it's really stay healthy, right? 2 years ago, they were down six starters, and they could not stop the Chiefs. And last year, they lose Christian Benford early. They were already down other starters.
But the Benford one is a great example.
Early.
Like, what if you lose a guy who is so important that it completely junks the game plan in the most important game of the season, and you have to do something different? I mean, Joey Bosa might not be quite that, but if you go from we're already beat up and don't have the defensive line we want to deploy, and Joey Bosa is here, but so he'll be okay, right? Or also Joey Bosa's done. Well, you don't have any pass rush anymore at that point. You might, I don't know. This would be, I've commended Buffalo a lot for the last couple of years for not panicking and doing anything crazy off the back of their sort of unfortunately consistent gut punches to end each season, right? You look really dominant in the regular season. You're a Super Bowl favorite. You get to the postseason, and you find a way of losing those games, and you fall short. A lot of teams, a lot of franchises, I think, already would have done something dramatic, like firing general managers, firing coaches, radically overhauled something massive on the roster. Something huge has got to change. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for having the discipline to say, I don't think we need to do that. I think generally we are still knocking on the door, and the right thing to do is to sort of keep running it back and, try and just get lucky effectively on one of these games. But if you are looking for something radical to change, that might be it. Like, when has a team ever done that with a player, to just say, you know what, this guy is too important to risk in the next. And this is, we were sort of speculating preseason that you could do this, assuming that they were kind of going to run away with the division again and have everything locked up and blah, blah, blah.
They're not going to do that this year. But
now they're in a dogfight. Like, they're a game behind the Patriots. They're not sure of anything at the moment. They're going to have to win. They might need to win games just to be a wild card team, win the division and lock up the number one seed and all those kinds of things. Even with that, there's still tons to fight for this season, it might be in your best interest to just say Joey Bosa in January is more important than anything Joey Bosa can do in the next 8 weeks. Just put him away.
And it's just him because of his injury history. Obviously, you can't do this. You can't be like, Greg Rousseau, you're doing it too. Like, you can't do that with everybody. Just like Bosa in particular. And I'm not saying he's worth like a touchdown against the Chiefs or anything. It's just the whole thing added together.
It might be worth a play.
At
the moment, it's the difference between winning and losing those games.
And I'm saying in football, like in other sports, there are levers you can pull in the playoffs where you play the game differently to find an advantage. And there's really not those things in football, right? You can't just, we've got this secret game plan that we're going to use. We're going to throw the ball 100% of the time. Or we have the secret defensive scheme that we're going to use that we're just saving for the playoffs. Like in basketball, you change your rotations. In baseball, you use starters as really whatever. Everybody, you tighten up the game to only focus on your best players as much as you can. And there's not really a football equivalent to that, but manipulating health somehow might be. And it's a unique situation for the Bills because they have this one team that they're always trying to beat. Yeah. And look, the Chiefs might not even make the playoffs this year. Like that's like in the range of outcomes right now. Who knows? At 5-4, I think they'll still make it, but they might not even play the Chiefs. It would look ridiculous, but the goal's a Super Bowl, right? And so you're thinking, like, how do we get to extreme measures to win a Super Bowl, and that would be one of them.
It's the only sport where you don't really factor in, the load management stuff at all, right? Like, guys are either healthy or they're not. If they're healthy, they're out on the field, they're giving it a go, right? Every other sport, basketball, you got the load management. We joked about what a farce baseball is with their load management. Guys can only pitch one game of a World Series or whatever. Soccer, they're busy resting people because they got an important midweek game in the Champions League. Like, this happens everywhere. It doesn't happen in football, and yet a guy like Joey Bosa, specifically him, number one, he's healthy for the first, wrist injury now, but up until now, he's been healthy this season for the first time in years. Like, this is a dude that's been banged up for a long time in his NFL career, and that took him from being, one of those all-pro caliber defensive linemen to a guy who really was anonymous for the Chargers late in his career there because he'd just been so taken apart by injuries. For the first time in a long time, he looked like himself and has been making a ton of plays for this Bills defensive line. So given that, A, you really need him, and B, if he gets hurt again and starts getting banged up and is now playing banged up, like if he goes back to being the Chargers guy for the last couple of years, that's a problem. Whether or not he's out there or not, if he's just not the same effectiveness.
Right.
So I think you can absolutely make the case that it would be radical. You would take a ton of criticism for it. But if you unboxed Joey Bosa for the divisional round of the playoffs, and he goes out there and has, 2 sacks and has a dominant third down rush that kills the game or whatever, who cares?
It's worth it. It's all worth it to do it. I'm just saying. So it's not just so coming out of that game, James Cook got hurt during that game. He's questionable, ankle/foot, didn't practice yesterday. Josh Palmer, questionable. Bosa, who we mentioned. Teron Johnson, questionable. He didn't practice yet. Christian Benford, groin, limited. Questionable. Terrell Bernard, AJ Epinesa, Daquan Jones. They're beat up now coming off of the Chiefs game. Some of those guys were already beat up. But, it's a big win last week. Will there be an emotional letdown? But it looks like there's even just a physical letdown. That'd be the one thing that gives maybe Miami a chance here to keep it close. Yeah. Plus just playing in Miami.
Right. They're banged up now, Buffalo. But they're still way better than the Dolphins. The Dolphins, the thing is going to be, once they quit, can you unquit? Like, once they tapped out in the second half of that game, is that them just done for the year? Like, have they abandoned the season now? Or can you can you recover from that? Can you untap out after you do it in the middle of a game?
And remember in the last game, Miami, this was the game where Miami had all of the high leverage conversions, right?
Yeah.
Like they were awful on first and second down?
Their third down number in this game the first time around was crazy.
All third down conversions. That's really tough to bottle up. And I think historically, if you do want a schematic element added to this, Buffalo's done a really nice job. Even when Miami's offense was cooking and at their best, Buffalo was always the matchup that made it difficult, took away those middle of the field throws and just had a feel for it. I'm not saying Miami never had success against the Bills, but the Bills were like just the defense that felt equipped to slow them down, or one of them. Anyway, 9.5. Bills are favored.
I'm going to go with the Bills to win and cover.
It's my lock of the week, Sam, so watch out.
Oh, God.
I'll also take the Bills. Lock of the week's doing great this year.
It's 2-5.
As will Harry. It's not really a lock then.
No, it's not.
Is it now?
Very unlocked.
It's just a pick. If it's not a lock, it's just a pick of the week. Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. Sunday, 4:05. Seahawks favored by 6.5 with MVP candidate Sam Darnold at quarterback. 6-2 Seahawks against the 3-5 Cardinals, who will have Jacoby Brissett starting once again, named and declared the starter as Kyler Murray goes on IR. And still a little fuzzy about the exact mechanics there, but it seems like Jacoby Brissett would have been the starter even if Kyler was healthy.
Yeah, Jonathan Gannon was asked directly about that by somebody. I didn't see who it was, so apologies for not crediting him. And he gave an answer that was effectively yes. You know, we still would have had Jacoby as the starter if Kyler was healthy, but was sufficiently couched in Jonathan Gannon weird words that, you know, it's like you made that more complicated an answer than it needed to be. Like, you know, he just has a weird way of communicating sometimes. But yeah, it does seem like they're going to roll with Jacoby Brissett for the foreseeable, which makes sense. I mean, he's at least executing the offense. It's an easier offense to run with Jacoby Brissett there. Like Kyler Murray, however good or bad you think he is an unusual quarterback. And I think you're willing to do that at times if you believe the guy is so talented that the ceiling is worth it. But if you've just kind of given up on that as a concept, well, now you just got to execute this pain-in-the-ass offense to work around a guy's skill set. And, you know, is that worth it?
Yeah, we've seen the emergence of Marvin Harrison Jr. in recent weeks. I know some of that started with Kyler Murray, but it is like there's way more just straight up timing routes and, you know, good connections between him and Jacoby Brissett than what we saw with Kyler and Marvin Harrison.
The fact that his career high before last week was 6 catches in a game is crazy.
I mean, part of it's he's used as just a vertical threat, right?
But that's the crazy part.
It's a slant here,
right.
And it's a drag there, but like he's not running a whole lot of like 5-yard stick routes. You know, like when the Bengals started, when they turned Jamar Chase from an outside receiver, and then they said, "Oh, we're going to put you in the slot, and you're going to catch some screens, and you're going to like." He doesn't have any of those easy catches
That's the thing.
Have the 14 catch game.
Imagine drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. at the top of it. I mean, no wonder Marvin Harrison Sr. was so pissed off.
Yeah.
Like, imagine drafting this guy at the top of the draft, this generational wide receiver prospect, and all we're going to do is run him this bare bones route tree that gets him, you know, 6 targets a game max. Like, this guy should be getting double-digit catches in a game. Why wouldn't you?
I mean, maybe they were really feeding him early in that Cowboys game, if you're able to see it. Anyway, fun matchup, too. This is the game we did a watch-along on the first matchup here on Thursday Night Football. I remember the Cardinals made it a game, and then Seattle pulled away late, hit the game-winning field goal. Darnold to JSN, back shoulder to set that up. They were cooking back in week 3 or 4, whenever that was, and they're still going, man. It's still Darnold to JSN. JSN, it's a low-volume passing attack, and he is just dominating on a per-snap, per-route basis. And now they're adding Rashid Shaheed, another deep threat.
Explosiveness.
To go with Torrey Horton, with the tight ends who are tough to cover. It's a really, it's a power move by, I think, Seattle to get Rashid Shaheed in there. If he sneaks a 50-yarder, you know, every other week like he tends to do, it's just a huge addition to this offense.
To a coach who already is familiar with him, already knows what he's getting. You know, Clint Kubiak having been in New Orleans. Like, this is somebody that should be able to hit the ground running. And, like, Rashid Shaheed has been one of the most consistent, explosive threats in the last couple of years throughout the NFL. It's a fun addition. Like I said, a little bit bummed for Torrey Horton because Feels like he could have carved his niche within this offense in that specific role. So I don't know if he just gets kind of eliminated from the offense or if he's going to have to find a different pathway. But for Seattle's point of view, I mean, it's a fun offense now.
The other thing to watch in this game, Arizona's defense is still pretty good, and you can look at Arizona's season and say their 5 losses are just by a handful of points each. It includes one of the worst collapses in the last decade against Tennessee.
Yeah.
But they've obviously been in every single game. They're probably better than their record is. You still want to find a way to win those games at the end, but you're close to beating the Packers, the Colts, the Titans, the Seahawks. Like, they were in a lot of these games. And they have a defense that I think is starting to come together with their pass rush. Josh Sweat, Calais Campbell, and then they added Walter Nolan, right? He made his debut on Monday Night Football, their first-round pick. I loved the storyline that was the guy that Jerry Jones said we're debating between him and Tyler Booker, Walter Nolan and Tyler Booker, and Nolan has a really disruptive game with a sack, batted pass, tackle for a loss. He's wreaking havoc in the backfield there. So I think the Cardinals are still a lot of what we expected them to be, but it's not showing up in wins and losses. But if they obviously keep this close or, are really competitive over these next few weeks, wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they could. Walter Nolan, I think, is a huge – I mean, remember, they've drafted these impact defensive linemen the last couple of years, but they've been largely hurt, both of them. So Walter Nolan coming in, looking very good right out of the gate. And, his most impressive play came against the best Dallas offensive lineman. It wasn't like he wasn't like
Tyler Smith.
Yeah, it wasn't like he went after the weak link, and that's where his good play came against. His most dominant play was against Tyler Smith, who's a really, really good offensive lineman. So that, I think, is a huge thing for the Cardinals and for Nolan, looking like he could be a really impact player for them. That would be a huge development.
And so that, Seattle, it's a good matchup, man, on both sides. Seattle's offense doing a great job throwing the ball down the field. Sam Darnold has been incredible. He had that one interception the other day, but it was almost perfect. He was perfect in the first half, 16 of 16 against Washington's defense. This will be a bigger challenge. And then Cardinals' offense has looked really good with Brissett going up against this Seahawks defense that is just attacking, physical. Nicky Minwari has just added a whole different element to that defense, much in Kyle Hamilton-like fashion, right? In the system where Kyle Hamilton first broke out with Mike McDonald. So a lot of fun storylines in this game. Sunday, 4:05. BXC David, one of our members in the chat, asking about a watch-along tonight. It will not be this week. Next week, though. We've got, is it Bills Texans?
Was it next week or did we decide 2 weeks from now?
2 weeks from now?
I don't remember which one we decided. It'll be upcoming, though.
No, not next week. 2 weeks from now.
Yep.
Bills Texans, Thursday, November 20th. That'll be the next watch along. So sign up for the memberships. All right, make a pick. Cardinals, Seahawks.
Cardinals. Keep it within 6.5.
Oh, that's what I took too.
Oh, God.
I thought I had Seattle.
How much do we agree this week? That's not good.
Too much for you. It's going to be tough for me to make up ground if we're in agreement all the way through.
Well, that's true.
I've got 2, 3.
I think I have my sights set on better than that, though.
Oh, you want to win?
I mean, I don't think.
I do too.
I think winning the league would be. I think that's ambitious, given my current position. Given how many people are ahead of me, given
just need a couple
my
12
distance
and 4
bank.
runs.
Sure. I think that's probably ambitious. I do, however, think that I want to do better than just match you down the stretch to win against you.
I'm ready to make a run. I'm taking Arizona, as will Harry. Let's wrap it up. Sunday, 4:25, NFC divisional round rematch. Detroit Lions at the Washington Commanders. Lions favored by 8.5 here. Of course, no Jaden Daniels, dislocated elbow. The more you hear about that injury, it's like a very doable injury to come back from. It's just the Commanders are at a point where it might not.
Yeah, why would you?
It might not even matter. So Marcus Mariota getting the start. Washington, of course, down Marshawn Lattimore with his ACL, and their defense looking awful in recent weeks in particular. Detroit coming off of their disappointing loss to Minnesota.
Yeah. The elbow always looked like the most horrible thing to dislocate.
Oh, yeah.
It just, there's something about your arm just being.
It doesn't good to, extend it. And you're just like, man, it doesn't
my daughter has one of those elbows where it goes, backwards to
a
fairly large degree, and it freaks my wife out. So she's always like going,
torture your mom. That's what you
Yeah.
kids do.
But there's just something about the arm bending in the wrong direction, flopping backwards. It feels so much worse than an ankle or anything else you dislocate, shoulder, whatever.
It's a big game for the Tiger Woods 5-3 Lions, the flashy, good-looking Lions.
Right. Tiger's going to go out there and show he's still the big dog.
Yeah. I mean, Washington's defense I've got zero faith in them.
Dude, yeah. I mean, if the Lions don't put up 400-plus yards in this game, what are they even doing?
Yeah. I know it's on the road. I know we may have said the same exact thing before their divisional round matchup last year. It may have been the same spread.
But look at that game. I mean, that took 5 turnovers or something for the Lions for Washington to win that game. Like, the Lions should have stomped them in that game,
and they didn't.
Yeah,
and so, yeah, we may have had the same analysis, but I'm going to stick with it. I think the Lions' offense is going to bounce back and
I think it's
do a good job.
Perfectly consistent to say the Lions were a better football team than Washington last year, just not on that day.
The Commanders had a little stretch where they hung tough against the Chiefs on Monday Night Football 2 weeks ago. It was tied at the half or close at the half. Gave up 3 straight scores to the Chiefs in the second half. And we know the Chiefs' offense has been a little up and down, and they've maybe beaten up on some bad teams, including Washington. And then the Commanders roll into Sunday Night Football, and they allowed Sam Darnold's 16 of 16 and 4 touchdown passes in the first half.
418 yards overall in the game. They had something
and
like
that's what Seattle kind of said.
They had 300 of those at the half or something.
So that was like that stretch of play, Monday Night Football second half into Sunday Night Football first half, before Seattle took their foot off the gas, where Washington was getting smoked.
Yeah,
and that was with Lattimore, and Lattimore hasn't played great, but you just tapping into the depth a little bit more, and I just don't think they have enough rushing the passer and covering on the back end.
No, I mean, I would be amazed if the defensive performance didn't look kind of similar to what it did against Seattle. I mean, Detroit is good across the board on offense. They can pass, they can run the ball a lot better than Seattle can run the ball. So that's another variable in terms of icing the game or just dominating on the ground. And then it becomes, well, can Marcus Mariota keep pace with an offense that's putting up a ton of points? And you're like, probably not.
Mariota's done some nice things this year. I think he's a good backup. Remember the Chiefs game 2 weeks ago when he started. They started out with a great drive, throws an interception off of Deebo Samuel's helmet. I think that's a factor too, right? Jaden Daniels last week had, hesitation. Nobody's getting open. They've dealt with their own injuries with Terry McLaurin being in and out of the lineup these last few weeks. So there's inconsistency just with Washington's offense and their ability to create separation. Run game's been a little bit hit or miss. We've seen plenty of flashes from Bill, but it's just not a great team right now.
Yeah, and they are very banged up. Like, not having your number one wide receiver is a big thing for any offense. It's a very big thing for this offense. Deebo Samuel, I don't know if he's quite as dynamic as he used to be, but even if he is, I think he needs more. That can't be your offense. Like, you can't have the primary threat be the sort of versatile weapon of Deebo Samuel. That needs to be the complement to somebody else that's already scary, like Terry McLaurin. This is tough to see anything other than a fairly conclusive beatdown.
Fairly conclusive beatdown. For Detroit, run game got slowed down last week against Minnesota. Minnesota did a really good job attacking them with the blitz and the best Flores performance, I would say, against Goff and the Lions. But other than that, it's been an interesting year for the Lions, I would say. I think it's more often than not looked like the previous Lions teams that have had Ben Johnson, that have been quarterbacked by Jared Goff and had all those playmakers. They hit a week 1 lull against the Packers where everything was off. They did get slowed down last week by Flores, still scored 24, right? They had some explosives in there. And they had the Chiefs game Sunday Night Football where they had success early and then got slowed down and lost a 4th down conversion and everything. But overall, it's been a very good Lions offense, and I think they should dominate this side of the ball against Washington.
They did look a little bit vulnerable in terms of special teams, the return game against Minnesota. The numbers don't necessarily reflect it because some of them were taken off by holding calls and stuff. But like Washington have got returners that can make plays.
Look at you.
They've got a couple of guys I think that are reasonably dangerous in that regard. So look, if you're in this world of like, how does this go Washington's way? It's stuff like that. Like if they get a huge return or multiple big returns that set them up in good field position, that kind of thing, like that's the type of thing that needs to happen for them to have a shot.
Yeah. Like in the divisional round game, turnovers, big
Yeah,
plays.
I mean, obviously, hey, if you turn the ball over 5 times, you're going to give them a shot. But even outside of like turnovers, if they could just get a couple of big returns, not even a couple of big returns, but if they can get consistently positive field position out of the return game, that would help a long way.
The other, I mean, we've talked a lot about Washington's injuries, but Detroit also had Taylor Decker. Decker did not participate in practice. He was in and out on Sunday. Penei Sewell, the right tackle with a shoulder. Dan Skipper, the backup left tackle with a back injury, did not practice yesterday. Just lost Christian Mahogany, starting guard for the season. So just keep an eye on Detroit's offensive line and the injuries that they're dealing with as well. 8.5, though. Where are you going to go with this one?
Lions win and cover.
Lions for me as well, and for Harry. Is that it? Is that all the games?
Yep.
13, 14 games this week. Should be a fun one. Looking forward to it. Thursday Night Football tonight, we'll have our instant reaction, Raiders and Broncos. And that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, we're going to have Dane Brugler for an extra little bonus episode on YouTube, talking his top 50. As if you're a fan of a team that's starting to, look forward to the draft a little bit, we'll start ramping up a little bit more draft content as we head into November and December here.
Nice.
All right. That's it for us today. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you Monday morning with our Week 10 NFL review.